Now, the greatest radio shows of all time.
Suspense.
The Shadow Node.
Washington calling David Harding, counter-spy.
Classic radio theater.
The Great Gildersleeve.
Fibber McGee and Molly.
Dragnet. Gunsmoke.
The Lone Ranger.
Now, step back into our time machine with your host, Wyatt Cox.
Good evening, friends of the Inner Sanctum.
And how are you doing on this Thursday? More comedy on a Sunday. Well, this is Thursday, but we're going to go start off on Sunday, January 23rd, 1949, with episodes of Our Miss Brooks starring Eve Arden and Lum and Abner. And then we're going to go to 1941 for an episode of The Aldrich Family, 1952 with an episode of You Bet Your Life, and then we're going to wrap it up with another episode of Superman. That's all straight ahead on this Thursday. This is the 23rd day of January, 342 days remaining till we get to 2026. Georgetown College, the first Roman Catholic college in the U.S., founded on this date in 1789 in Georgetown, Maryland, now part of Washington. In 1849, Elizabeth Blackwell awarded her M.D. by the Medical Institute of Geneva, New York, becoming the U.S.'s first female doctor. 1855, the first bridge over the Mississippi River opened in what is now Minneapolis, a crossing made today by the Father Lewis Hennepin Bridge. 1907, Charles Curtis of Kansas became the first Native American United States Senator. 1941, Charles Lindbergh testified before Congress and recommended that the U.S. negotiate a neutrality treaty with Adolf Hitler. Great movie premiering on this date in 1943, Casablanca, starring Humphrey Bogart and Ingrid Bergman.
Of all the gin joints in all the towns in all the world, she walks into mine.
Sing it, Sam.
You must remember this, a kiss is just a kiss, a sigh is just a sigh. The fundamental things apply as time goes by. And when two lovers woo, they still say I love you. On that you can rely. No matter what the future brings as time goes by.
He's looking at you, kid. Louis, I think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship.
Casablanca, premiering on this date in 1943. Austrian and American forces defeated the Japanese army in Papua New Guinea, also on this date in 1943. A turning point in the Pacific War marked the beginning of the end of Japanese aggression. And in 1943, Duke Ellington played at Carnegie Hall in New York City for the very first time. The Knesset passed a resolution in 1950 stating Jerusalem is the capital of Israel. In 1964, the 24th Amendment of the Constitution, prohibiting the use of poll taxes in national elections, was ratified, one of the last boundaries to making certain that African Americans could vote. North Korea seized the USS Pueblo on this date in 1968, claiming the ship had violated their territorial waters while spying.
I do want very much to tell the people of the United States how much the crew of Pueblo and myself had faith in them for the entirety of our detention. I had people come to me and say on so many occasions that they never really appreciated how great it was to be an American until they had the misfortune to have been captured and stuck in a country that is completely devoid of humanity, truthfulness.
Captain Lloyd Bucher of the USS Pueblo. 1973, President Nixon announced a peace accord had been reached in Vietnam.
The following statement is being issued at this moment in Washington and Hanoi. At 12:30 Paris time today, January 23, 1973, The agreement on ending the war and restoring peace in Vietnam was initialed by Dr. Henry Kissinger on behalf of the United States and Special Advisor Lee Duc-Tho on behalf of the Democratic Republic of Vietnam. The agreement will be formally signed by the parties participating in the Paris Conference on Vietnam on January 27, 1973, at the International Conference Center in Paris. The ceasefire will take effect at 2400 Greenwich Mean Time, January 27, 1973. The United States and the Democratic Republic of Vietnam express the hope that this agreement will ensure stable peace in Vietnam and contribute to the preservation of lasting peace in Indochina and Southeast Asia.
And U.S. would eventually leave Vietnam, but not in 1973. O.J. Simpson became the first Heisman Trophy winner in the state in 1985, elected to the Football Hall of Fame. 1986, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inducted its first members: Chuck Berry, James Brown, Ray Charles, Fats Domino, the Everly Brothers, Buddy Holly, Jerry Lee Lewis, and Elvis Presley. 1997, Madeleine Albright, the first woman to serve as U.S. Secretary of State. 2002, American Taliban John Walker Lind returned to the U.S. in FBI custody. And on this date in 2002, reporter Daniel Pearl kidnapped in Karachi, Pakistan.
Danny is solely a journalist. He has absolutely no ties to anyone in the United States government, including the Central Intelligence Agency. He is just trying to do his job as a reporter for an independent newspaper.
Pearl would be subsequently murdered. The final communication on this date in 2003 between Earth and Pioneer 10 spacecraft, it is out there somewhere. A 7.9 earthquake occurred in the Gulf of Alaska on this date in 2018, tied as the sixth largest earthquake ever recorded in the U.S. No reports of significant damage or fatalities. And in 2024, a year ago today, Northwest Air Flight 738 crashed after takeoff from Fort Smith Airport in Arkansas. It killed 6 people. Among those passing away on this date in history, brewer Arthur Guinness, bon vivant Alexander Woollcott, the singer-social activist Paul Robeson, New York restaurateur Toots Shor, actor Jack Oakey, Vic Ames of the Ames Brothers, artist Salvador Dali, singer-actress Nell Carter, Captain Kangaroo Bob Keeshan, Johnny Carson passing away on this day, as did E. Howard Hunt, fitness guru Jack LaLanne, Bobby Freeman, the singer-songwriter, the man who was grazing in the grass in 1968, Hugh Masekela, also interviewer Larry King, actor-director Hal Holbrook, and a year ago today, radio TV commentator Charles Osgood, and Melanie and her brand new key. Now let's go to birthdays, and we see that were born on this date who are no longer with us. Statesman John Hancock, actor Randolph Scott, actor Dan Duryea, the delightful Ernie Kovacs. What am I saying, Eddie? Ernie Kovacs, actress Cheetah Rivera, whom we lost last year at the age of 91. You may remember her from West Side Story. She was Millie in the Andy Griffith Show and Mayberry RFD. Arlena Golonka, also country singer-songwriter Johnny Russell. Joe Dowell, who had a number one song in 1961, The Wooden Heart. Actor Rutger Hauer, and the Pointer Sisters Anita Pointer, all born on this date.
Hi, this is Jeff Foxworthy. It is now time for the birthday announcements. The following people are now officially older than dirt.
I've said I love when I have lots of audio. Today I don't have much audio at all. None of the people who are some birthdays today. Jazz vibraphonist Gary Burton, Buck Rogers, Gil Gerard, 82 today. MacGyver, Richard Dean Anderson, 75. Sully, there was a real Sully, Chesley Sullenberger, 74 today. Cheap Tricks, Robin Zander is 72. From NYPD Blue, Gail O'Grady is 62. Jane Mansfield's daughter, who now stars in SVU. Marissa Hargitay, 60 years old. From Saved by the Bell and 90210, Tiffany Amber Thiessen is 51. Pro wrestling commentator, and he did actually get back in the ring on a very limited scale, Nigel McGuinness, 49. He had to leave the ring because he had some serious health issues. And the fact that he was able to get back in the ring and have some dream matches, it was a delight to see him back. And of course, he's a wonderful commentator. Nigel McGuinness, 49 today, for All Elite Wrestling. And from Twilight Saga and Westworld, Julia Jones is 44. Those just a few of the people who celebrate the 23rd day of January as their birthday. And if this happens to be your birthday...
We baked you a birthday cake. If you get a tummy ache and you moan and groan and woe, don't forget we told you so. Happy birthday! Happy birthday!
Make a wish, dear, and blow out the candles.
Here they go.
And our feature day today is Sunday, January 23rd, 1949. We'll start off with an episode of Our Miss Brooks starring Eve Arden. That's next.
Should public utilities fail in time of disaster, refrigerated foods must be either cooked or eaten before they spoil. If this can't be done, throw it away.
Feature day today is Sunday, January 23rd, 1949. We go back 76 years to an episode of Our Miss Brooks starring Eve Arden as they try to get a new head for the English department.
Palmolive Soap, your beauty hope, and Luster Cream Shampoo for soft, glamorous, caressable hair bring you Our Miss Brooks starring Eve Arden. Miss Brooks, who teaches English at Madison High School, has always hoped that someday she would head her department. But with Mrs. Emma Finch holding down the job for the past 5 years, it didn't look like Connie Brooks would ever get a crack at it until last week.
It was right before the final exams that Mr. Conklin, our principal, told me Mrs. Finch was not only retiring from the position, but actually leaving the school. When I asked him why, he blushed and replied, because it's best for all concerned. Oddly enough, it was our bashful biology teacher, Mr. Boynton, who finally told me the reason. We were alone in his laboratory at the time, and he said, Miss Brooks, Mrs. Finch is going to have a B.A.B.Y. I guess he put it that way so as not to embarrass some young rabbits who were listening. Anyway, Friday morning at breakfast, I was talking to my landlady, Mrs. Davis, about it. Well, what do you think, Mrs. Davis? Do you suppose I'll get the job?
I can't see any reasons why you shouldn't, Connie.
Honestly? But can you see any reasons why I should, Mrs. Davis?
No, I can't see any of those either. It's up to Mr. Conklin to recommend the new department head to the Board of Education, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Well, how do you stand with him?
How do you mean, Mrs. Davis?
Have you been, courteous, cooperative, obedient, and, respectful?
No. And maybe I better forget the whole thing. Of course, it's not entirely up to Mr. Conklin's opinion of me personally. My work's got something to do with it, hasn't it?
Frankly, Connie, your work should have everything to do with it.
That's what I say. Maybe I better forget the whole thing.
Are there any other English teachers at Madison who have been there as long as you have?
Let's see. Yes, Miss Enright's been there about the same length of time, and she's been quite friendly with the Conklins, too. Of course, I have Mr. Conklin's daughter, Harriet, in my class, and we're great friends. Then that wouldn't influence Mr. Conklin any. Although Harriet's a pretty good pupil, thank goodness, and her marks have all been exceptionally high. That might count for something with the old. I wonder if he'll make his decision right away. He might leave the position open for a while. I wish I knew. But then there's no sense in brooding about it. I'm either to be head of the department or I'm not to be.
Oh, thanks for reminding me, Connie. I must get 2 tickets for Hamlet today. I promised my sister Angela I'd take her to see it. Of course, even if I forgot about it, she'd probably never even mention it. She's so absent-minded, poor thing. The older she gets, the more forgetful she is.
How old is she now, Mrs. Davis?
Who?
Your sister.
Which one?
Angela, the absent-minded one.
Oh, she's in the low 70s.
That's pretty good golf for an old lady.
Oh, Angela's not half as bad as my brother Victor. He's so forgetful sometimes. Why, do you know, Connie, he can be talking to you about something and right in the middle of the sentence get off on another topic altogether.
Really?
Yes, it's quite disconcerting, but I guess it's just something that scrambled, boiled, or fried, Connie.
Well, I suppose you just have to... What?
Your eggs, dear. How would you like them?
I'd like them introduced into the conversation a little earlier. But now that you bring it up, Mrs. Davis, I'll take them any way you want yours.
Good. Then we'll both have oatmeal.
That's the only way to eat eggs. Whatever you do, don't miss snake pit. Where's the coffee, Mrs. Davis?
It's right here, Connie. I'll pour you some.
Thanks. You know, it isn't just the extra salary that makes me so anxious to head the English department. It's the additional income.
How much of a raise will you get, Connie?
Oh, I'm not certain of the exact amount, Mrs. Davis, but it's well over $9 a month. Just think, I won't have to put newspapers in my shoes when the soles wear out. Now I can use magazine paper.
You mentioned a Miss Enright before, Connie. Is that the rather snooty teacher you told me about?
That's her, Mrs. Davis. And if she gets that job as head of the English department, she'll be impossible. For she walks around the school now as if she's inspecting the stockyards. The way she talks to people. Why, darling, you look positively chic. I mean, just too terribly soigné. It's sickening.
Oh, then, don't eat any more oatmeal, dear. Just finish your coffee.
You've been derailed again, Mrs. Davis. Let me help you back on the track. I'm talking about Miss Enright, a rival English teacher. She's got me worried.
Oh, don't worry about her, Connie. I'm sure her baby will be a fine, healthy specimen.
She isn't the one who's going to have the baby, Mrs. Davis.
Well, that's a shame. I think the mother should always take care of her own baby, no matter what.
It's Mrs. Finch who's having the baby.
Who?
Mrs. Finch.
Oh, well, that's a very nice name for a baby. Now, if you'll excuse me, Connie, I'd better clean up the dishes.
All right, Mrs. Davis, you clean up the dishes, and I'll clean up the conversation by myself. I'd help you in the kitchen, but I've got to get ready to go to school. Walter Denton's picking me up any minute.
Oh, Walter's such a nice boy. It's a pity he's not a more brilliant student. But I think I know what his trouble is, Connie. Lack of concentration.
Concentration?
Yes. If he would just concentrate on one subject at a time. You see, he's the kind of a boy who... Well, he's the type that... Connie?
Yes?
What were we talking about?
Walter Denton.
Oh, he's picking you up this morning, isn't he? What happened to your car, Connie? You just got it out of the repair shop.
I know, Mrs. Davis, but I took it out the night of the big freeze.
And?
It froze. I did try to warm it up a little. I poured some boiling water into the radiator, but then the engine made the strangest sound.
What kind of a sound, Connie?
Well, I may be wrong, Mrs. Davis, but I'd swear it said, "Why don't you get yourself a bicycle?" I'm glad you picked me up a little early this morning, Walter. Today may be a very important day in my life.
Well, the importance of today or any day in your life, Miss Brooks, is only exceeded by your importance to your adoring pupils, of which, if I may be so bold, I consider myself one of the most worshipful and reverent.
Amen. Thank you, Walter.
There are things about you, Miss Brooks, character traits, I guess you'd call them, which are not to be found in any other teachers I've ever come into contact with. I just know that you are an eminently fair person. I also know that you're kind, gentle, and considerate of those who may not possess a superior mentality, which is obviously your birthright.
What else do you know, Walter?
That today you're giving us the final exams in English.
I thought you were a little over-smitten with me this morning.
Oh, I'm not trying to influence you to give me a better mark. Oh, no, I'd bend over backwards rather than curry favor. But I've actually studied for this test, Miss Brooks. Even Saturday, when Harriet dragged me to the movies, I took my books right up to the balcony with me.
What were you studying, Romeo and Juliet?
You're kidding me, Miss Brooks, but I'm serious. I really crammed in that movie.
But how could you read in the dark?
Oh, it isn't always dark. And they have a 3-minute intermission between pictures.
Well, that's plenty of time. Especially if you were studying in shorthand.
Of course, not knowing exactly what the questions are going to be about makes it a little tougher.
Naturally.
It's sort of a strain on a student not to know approximately the nature of the questions he should expect.
That's true.
And just because a student has been fortunate enough to make a personal contact with a teacher whom he not only admires and respects as a person, but whose integrity and honesty as an instructor he holds in such high esteem, it's no reason for him to presume that just because he drives her to school faithfully and promptly, she would relinquish just one tiny iota of that integrity and slip him a little advance information about the test. Is it?
You're so right, Walter.
I knew you'd react that way, Miss Brooks, but I just wouldn't have felt completely honest with myself if I didn't try to chisel a tip or two. Anyway, now that you've dummied up about the tests, maybe we...
Excuse me, Walter. Now that I've what?
Dummied up. It's a synonym of clammed up. When I don't want anyone to know something about something I know about, I always clam up.
And you're the chowderhead who can do it. But, Walter, when I mentioned much earlier in the trip that this was an important day, I wasn't referring to the final exam.
You weren't?
No, I was thinking of Mrs. Finch.
Oh, the head of the English department.
The ex-head of the English department, Walter. Mrs. Finch is leaving Madison.
Why?
Because she's... well, Mrs. Finch is going to become a mother.
Of who?
Now, that's a fair question. Of her son or daughter, as the case may be.
I didn't know Mrs. Finch had any son or daughter.
Walter, you're not related to Mrs. Davis, are you? Oh, no. No, of course not. She's just absent-minded. Look, Walter, what concerns me at the moment is whether or not I have a chance to replace Mrs. Finch as head of the department.
A chance? Why, you're a standout, Miss Brooks. You've been teaching at Madison long enough to be the principal. I mean, Mr. Conklin should certainly choose you over anybody else.
How about Miss Enright?
Oh, gee, I forgot about her. Now, she's even older than you are, isn't she? Oh, in point of service, that is.
Oh, I'm glad you tagged that on, Walter. Nobody could be older than me in years. Not this morning, anyway.
Now, don't you worry about it, Miss Brooks. So why don't you see Mr. Conklin when we get to school and have a little chat with him? You know, turn on the charm, sort of.
You mean butter him up?
Butter him up?
Yes, and don't sound so innocent, Walter. After the job you did on me this morning, you should get a prize from the Dairymen's Association.
Well, here we are, Miss Brooks. Good old Madison High. You know, every time I look at these hallowed walls, I wish for just one thing.
What's that, Walter?
I wish I was still home in bed. Especially today with those finals coming up. Gosh, Miss Brooks, isn't there some little suggestions you could make to me so I'd pass the exam?
Certainly there is, Walter. Answer the questions correctly.
Yeah. Well, you better get off here, Miss Brooks, and I'll go park the car.
All right, Walter. Thanks for the lift. And good luck today.
Oh, thank you, Miss Brooks. And good luck with Mr. Conklin.
Yeah, I'll probably need it. I hope he's in a good mood this morning. Although why this morning should be any better...
Hello, Miss Brooks.
Oh, it's Harriet Conklin. Good morning, Harriet.
I wouldn't have interrupted your soliloquy, but you look sort of worried about something.
Worried? Me? Whatever gave you that idea?
Your complexion. It's not as ruddy as it usually is.
Oh, that's just from the new powder base I'm using. It's called Elephant Wallow Gray. Actually, though, I do have something on what's left of my mind, Harriet. It's Mrs. Finch. She's leaving the school.
Yes, I know. I heard she was going to have a B.A.B.Y.
Who told you?
Mr. Boynton.
That figures. But, Harriet, as you must know, you've always been one of my favorite pupils.
I'm glad you feel that way, Miss Brooks. You're my very favorite teacher.
Thanks. I'm very fond of your mother, too.
I know. And she's terribly fond of you, Miss Brooks.
I'm glad. Then there's your father.
Yes, I know.
Well, Harriet, do you think that I was going to Well, that is...
Well, what are you trying to ask me, Miss Brooks?
Do you think he's warm enough for buttering this morning? At least do you think I should have a little talk with him in his office?
About what?
Well, somebody's got to replace Mrs. Finch as head of the English department, and I figured...
But of course you'll get it.
Is that from the horse's mouth or just rumor? I mean, did you happen to overhear anything that... Look, Harriet, I don't want anybody to intercede for me because of any personal relationship we may have built up between us. What I'm trying to say is, well, I wouldn't want any principal's daughter, not even a clever, bright, pretty, industrious, talented, intelligent one like yourself, to become a fifth column for me.
Golly, Miss Brooks, nothing I could say would sway Daddy 1 inch. In fact, Mother and I bend over backwards rather than suggest anything about his duties at school. But I'm so sure you're our next head of the English department that I've even written a little poem about it. Care to hear it?
Well, if you don't think it'll put the whammy on me. Jinx anything.
To the head of the English department about to be, I present this little tribute to you from me. In class, you're good-tempered and don't fume or fret. But when it comes to our homework, you sure make us perspire. And in the forthcoming exams, whether I'm first or last, my feelings for you will be the same, especially if I've passed. So, Miss Brooks, all hail to the head of the English department about to be. Well, what do you think of it, Miss Brooks?
It won't send Carl Sandburg screaming into the hills, Harriet, but it's a lovely sentiment. Now, before I go into your father's lair, office, could you tell me what kind of a mood he's in?
Frankly, Miss Brooks, it isn't too good. When the newsboy that delivers our paper came around for the money this morning, Daddy bit his head off.
Fine. Then he should be too full to take a bite out of me.
Come in.
Good morning, Mr. Conklin.
Oh, it's you, Miss Brooks.
And how are you this bright, cheery, radiant day?
I'm cold, damp, and depressed. Now, what can I do for you that won't take longer than a few minutes?
Oh, it isn't what you can do for me, Mr. Conklin. It's what can I do for you. Oh, I know. I'll sharpen some pencils for you. Here's one.
Miss Brooks, I don't want you to sharpen any...
Oh, but this one is so blunty. It'll just take a minute. There. Isn't that a lovely point?
But I don't...
Give me your thumb a minute. Ow! See what I mean? Now, I'll just do a few more of them, and you'll have enough for the week.
Confound it, Miss Brooks. I don't want any more of my pencil sharpening.
Oh, it's really no trouble at all, Mr. Conklin. This is just one of those days when a person feels privileged to assist his fellow man. A day when a spirit of cooperation seems to beckon like a beacon.
Or a day when Mrs. Finch is leaving Madison and her position as head of the English department.
Mrs. Finch leaving Madison?
Yes. Yes, Miss Brooks. I think I told you that several days ago.
Oh, yes, of course. I've been so busy preparing my final examination papers, it must have slipped my mind. She's going to have a B.A.B.Y., isn't she?
Why, yes. Yes. She is going to have a baby.
Well, I just know they'll be happy together. Now, let's see what else I can do to make this office a home away from home for you. I know. I'll just rinse out this pen wiper for you.
That happens to be a blue pocket handkerchief I got for Christmas. Fallen out of my coat.
Oh, then I'll tuck it back in for you. May I say you have a lovely eye for color combinations, Mr. Conklin? It goes so well with this pretty purple tie you've got on. But it seems a little loose around your neck. Let me tighten it a bit. There.
Miss Brooks!
There, that's better. Now you're both the same color.
See here, Miss Brooks. I don't know what you expect to get.
Oh, I must clean off that desk of yours, Mr. Conklin. And why in the world does that big open inkwell have to be perched right in the middle of everything?
Because I like it that way. Now listen to me, young.
I'll have things in shape in no time. First we'll move these papers next to the inkwell, and then... Oh.
Now, where is the inkwell perched, Miss Brooks?
Oh, don't worry about that, Mr. Conklin. Ink is good for the rug. Where's that ashes? Well, anyway, I'll go get a mop and...
Sit down, Miss Brooks.
Sit down?
Yes. As you know, I spent considerable time in the Army as a major.
Yes, I know, Mr. Conklin. And it always gave me a great feeling of security to know that somebody like you...
Quiet!
Yes, sir, sorry.
At ease. Now then, Miss Brooks, from my Army experience, it's obvious to me that you are bucking for something.
Bucking, Mr. Conklin?
It's a colloquialism, Miss Brooks. It means that in order to gain some end of your own, you are acting like an eager beaver.
Want some pencil sharpened?
No!
To tell you the truth, Mr. Conklin, I just wanted to butter you up.
Now what? Come in.
Good morning, Mr. Conklin.
Well, it's Miss Enright.
Oh, and Miss Brooks is here, too. How nice. Darling, you look positively chic. I mean, just too terribly soigné.
Thanks, loads.
But what are you doing in school so early, darling? You're usually tearing into your room like a mad thing minutes after the bell is rung.
You must have telescopic vision to see me from the bus you're just catching at that time.
But what can I do for you, Miss Enright?
Oh, it isn't what you can do for me, Mr. Conklin. It's what can I do for you? Oh, I know. I'll sharpen some pencils for you, Mr. Conklin.
Thanks, just the same, Miss Enright.
Or maybe I could straighten out your desk. Oh, heavens, what happened to this inkwell?
I already straightened out his desk.
Well, don't worry about it, Mr. Conklin. I'm sure you can pick up another rug like that for $500 or $600. Oh, before I forget, I'd like you to have these woolen socks. I knitted them myself.
But, Miss Enright,
It was a labor of love, Mr. Conklin. I worked on these socks just every available moment I wasn't faithfully discharging my duties as an English teacher. They're merely a slight expression of my gratitude for having been granted the privilege of working for such a warm, kindly, and considerate boss as yourself.
This kid melts it before she spreads it on.
Thank you for the thought, Miss Enright, but with Mrs. Finch leaving Madison...
Oh, is she really? Well, this is a big surprise.
It must be. You look even more surprised than you did when we heard about it last Tuesday.
That will do, Miss Brooks. Miss Enright, in view of the fact that you are eligible for the position that Mrs. Finch is relinquishing, I feel that I cannot accept this pair of socks.
But, Mr. Conklin, whatever shall I do with them?
You can give one to Mrs. Finch's baby. It'll make a nice sleeping bag for him.
I think you should know, ladies, that my selection will be based largely upon the results your students achieve in their final exams this morning. Therefore, you will not mark your own papers, but bring them into this office immediately after the tests are completed.
Are you going to mark them, Mr. Conklin?
Certainly not, Miss Brooks. My daughter Harriet is one of the students taking the test. No, in order to assure complete impartiality, I've asked someone from another department to correct the papers. Mr. Boynton.
Mr. Boynton?
Oh, I know that you see each other socially on occasion, but he's the soul of honesty. And I know that he, like myself, would bend over backwards to see that justice is done.
Who's teaching everybody to bend over backwards? Arthur Murray?
Well, I don't think this arrangement is completely fair, Mr. Conklin. I never see Mr. Boynton.
Well, if it'll make you feel any better, Miss Enright, I'm not going to see him again either, until lunch.
If you'll just tell me what you want, Miss Brooks, I'll take your tray.
Oh, I'm too nervous to eat anything right now, Mr. Boynton. I'll wait until I find out the result of this morning's exam. The one you're marking, Mr. Boynton.
Oh. Well, that's something I'd rather not talk about, Miss Brooks. You see, I promised Mr. Conklin...
I know you've got to be strictly impartial, Mr. Boynton, but couldn't you give me just an inkling of how I'm making out?
But I gave my word, Miss Brooks.
Just a teensy suggestion of the merest trace of a breath of a hint.
But I gave Mr. Conklin my Scout's honor.
Oh. Well, then you might as well get yourself something to eat.
Oh, very well, Miss Brooks.
I hope you swallow a merit badge.
There you are, dear Mr. Boynton.
Oh, hello, Miss Enright.
May I share this table with you? The cafeteria is awfully crowded today.
Oh, I don't see why not, Miss Enright.
I do.
Oh, hello, darling. Oh, Mr. Boynton, before I forget, I'd like you to have these woolen socks. I knitted them especially for you.
I don't think I should, Miss Enright. You see, I'm still judging your examination papers, but thanks just the same. Now, if you'll tell me what you'd like to eat.
Well, let me see. Oh, I see they have turkey today. Would you get me a drumstick, Mr. Boynton?
Why don't you get 2 drumsticks and put the socks on them?
Miss Brooks, Miss Enright, I've summoned you to my office to tell you that Mr. Boynton has finished grading the examination papers and has reported to me that both of your classes have done equally well. Therefore, it will have to be my decision after all.
And that decision is, dear Mr. Conklin?
I have decided...
Yes, dear Mr. Conklin.
I have decided that for the coming fiscal year, I shall save the Board of Education exactly $9.85 per month. There will be no head of the English department in this school.
Why, darling, what in the world are you doing?
Just breaking some of the pencils I sharpened this morning. Depressed about not getting the job as head of the English department, but I perked up the following night when Mr. Boynton came by and took me to the movies. As we got to the theater, he stepped up to the box office.
2 tickets, please.
Here, Mr. Boynton, let me buy my own ticket.
Why, Miss Brooks, I wouldn't think of it.
Well, that's very nice.
You can pay me for yours when we get inside.
Thank you, and good night, Diamond Jim Boynton.
Tune into another Our Miss Brooks show, brought to you by Palmolive Soap, Your Beauty Hope, and Luster Cream Shampoo for soft, glamorous, caressable hair. Our Miss Brooks, starring Eve Arden, is produced by Larry Burns, written and directed by Al Lewis, with music by Wilbur Hatch. Mr. Boynton is played by Jeff Chandler, Mr. Conklin by Gail Gordon. Others in tonight's cast were Jane Morgan, Dick Crenna, Gloria McMillan, and Mary Jane Croft. For mystery liberally sprinkled with laughs, listen to Mr. and Mrs. North, the exciting, fun-packed adventures of an amateur detective and his beautiful wife. Tune in Tuesday evenings over most of these same stations. And be with us again next week at the same time for another comedy episode of Our Miss Brooks. Bob Lamont speaking. This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
As it was broadcast 76 years ago, 9:30 Sunday night, January 23rd, 1949, Our Miss Brooks, starring Eve Arden. Lum and Abner followed, but both of those, it's going to follow a quick look at some of the headlines of that date.
During a national emergency, you may have to be your own fireman. Take the first step now. Remove all fire hazards in your home. Eliminate clutter. Store flammables in a safe place.
We're looking at Sunday, January 23rd, 1949. We just heard the show at 9:30 at CBS, Our Miss Brooks, and at 10 o'clock on CBS, Lum and Abner. But before we do that, here's a look at some of the headlines of the day. Fresh snow blocked rescue efforts for starving livestock herds on the Utah-Nevada ranges Saturday. Stockmen feared losses would be heavy. Meanwhile, several other scattered sections of the country felt the lash of winter. Bitter cold held its grip on the northern Rockies. Snow up to 7 inches deep blanketed Maine. Majority sentiment appears to have developed within the Senate Finance Committee against increasing federal taxes. This sentiment apparently is based on the belief of members that congressional appropriations for the next year can be held to a level where the government can pay something on the $252 billion national debt without any tax boost. Meanwhile, with the inauguration festivities out of the way, both houses of Congress ready to settle down this week to important committee work. Little to no prospect, however, that any major legislation will hit the floor for debate before the end of the month. President Truman and Secretary of State Dean Acheson expected to shake up top American diplomatic representation abroad in the near future. Several ambassadors will be replaced, some because they insist on retiring. Likely, diplomatic authorities in Washington expect that in taking over as Secretary of State, Acheson will make some changes among his top policy advisors, probably in advance of any general reorganization of the State Department along lines which Acheson himself has probably already worked out. Peiping, the ancient Chinese center of learning, fell to the communists yesterday. The nationalist government maneuvered for peace at practically any price short of unconditional surrender and found the Reds in no mood to make concessions. While nationalist troops marched out of Peiping, a communist broadcast said resignation of President Chiang Kai-shek seemed an American-inspired move. The broadcast indicated intentions to fight until the nationalists meet all communist demands. The Asian Conference in India demanded the United Nations halt Dutch military rule of Indonesia and urged swift steps to give the people self-government. Perry Brown, national commander of the American Legion, said Saturday the federal government is ignoring the veterans' recommendations against a huge professional and costly military establishment. Speaking at a reception tendered him by the 9th District of the American Legion, Brown said the World War II veteran thinks the new peacetime army is not democratic. Brown said, "Picture the veteran's amazement when he learns about the glamour of the so-called new army." The Legion's commander said the enlisted man's pay now starts at $75 a month, compared with $50 basic combat pay during the war. Brown asked, "What's the big pay for? Is it for fighting duty?" "No, it's for peacetime duties, guard duty, and KP." President Philip Murray of the CIO and the United Steelworkers in Mercy Hospital in Pittsburgh for arrest and a checkup, that according to his wife. And farmhand Patrick Burns of Godric, Ontario, has learned 2 lessons. You shouldn't try to remove an aching tooth with pliers. It's a mistake to sell your boss's horse. It all started when Burns' tooth broke as his employer tried to pull it with pliers. Burns then borrowed the farmer's horse and set out for the dentist. But he changed his mind, sold the animal, went on a binge, and Saturday he was convicted of horse theft. Those some of the day's top news stories as reported in the newspapers of Sunday, January 23rd, 1949, on your radio, Lum and Abner, and they are up next.
Civil defense is common sense. This is Fred McMurray. Home shelters can be built for as little as $100. Simple plans for building inexpensive home shelters are available free from your civil defense office. Ask for a copy of the Family Fallout Shelter booklet.
Lum and Abner just back from the presidential inauguration in this episode of the program from 76 years ago, January 23rd, 1949.
The Lum and Abner Show on the air for Frigidaire. Frigidaire, a division of General Motors, presents a brand new comedy show starring Lum and Abner.
You know, Abner, I'm still wore out from that trip to Washington, but I grannies it was worth it. That inauguration was the biggest, importantest thing I ever seen in my life.
Oh, Lord, was it? Even the president was there.
Wasn't he wonderful? Just imagine me, little old Lum Edwards, getting to ride in the inaugural parade with him, the president of the whole United States.
Did you do that?
No, but just imagine.
Well, that inaugural ball was the fanciest affair I ever seen. And dance? Ha! Oh, doggies, I danced so hard I might now wore all the tread off my overshoes.
Well, I don't wonder the way you was leaping and whirling around there.
Oh, I was sent, boy.
Sure looked silly when you was dancing with Senator Fulbright's wife.
No sillier than you look dancing with Senator Fulbright.
We wasn't dancing. We was just trying to get to the punch bowl, and we got caught out there.
Well, anyway, I'm sure glad we made that trip, because I seen something there in Washington I never expected to see.
What was that?
A couple of real, genuine, live Republicans.
America's #1 refrigerator is Frigidaire. Yes, any way you look at it, America's #1 refrigerator is Frigidaire. #1 in popularity. For more Frigidaire refrigerators serve in more American homes than any other make. #1 in thrilling new advantages, as you can see for yourself at any Frigidaire dealers. And #1 in dependability. For Frigidaire refrigerators are made only by General Motors. And this association of experience with experience, of skill with skill, is your guarantee of lasting satisfaction. So when it comes to a new refrigerator for your home, remember this. The first name you think of is the right one to buy. Frigidaire, America's #1 refrigerator.
Granny's, Abner, this is my most favorable day, according to my horoscope.
Your what?
Horoscope.
Oh.
You can get them for 10 cents, and they'll tell you what's going to happen in the next few months.
No, I'll get all that from Gabriel Heater for nothing.
You don't understand, Abner. What they do is study the stars and see which ones are in the best position. And
well, I know which star is in the best position right now. Rita Hayworth.
No, now, look.
But, Lum, what will she be known as after she marries that prince? Mrs. Rita Can or Mrs. Allie Can?
Well, I don't rightly know, Abner. What I'm talking about is the signs of the zodiac. You know, like the ram and the lion. According to that, I'm a goat.
You paid 10 cents to find that out?
You don't understand, Abner. It depends on when your birthday is.
Oh.
For instance, if a body was born during, say, the first part of December, why, they'd be a Sagittarius.
Oh, no, sir. Mama was born on December the 6th, and she was a Johnson.
No, Abner.
Yes, she was Clementine Johnson. Then she changed it to Peabody when she married Papa.
I know that.
That was in Hornbeak, Tennessee. You can look it up in the record.
Abner, I ain't doubting
They
it.
moved to Osceola, Arkansas, where Papa bought a tailor shop, and I was born there late in May.
All right. Do you know what sign you was born under then?
Sure. Pants pressed while you wait.
No, Abner, according to the zodiac, if you was born in the last part of May, you're a Gemini.
I'm a what?
That's twins.
Well, I'll be a polka-dotted possum. That sure is going to be a surprise to Mama.
Well, here, I ain't going to waste my whole favorable day trying to explain it to you. My horoscope says I'll be successful in love, so I better get over and see Miss Rowena right away.
Does it tell you stuff like that, Lum?
Oh, it tells everything. Listen. You will perhaps receive an appointment befitting your talents.
Why, that's uncranny. Mose Moose called me up a while ago to tell me he'd named you head of a committee for the croquet tournament next spring.
Well.
You've been appointed mallet head.
Oh, this thing's amazing.
Yeah, what else does it say?
Well, it says, however, you can expect an old source of bewilderment and confusion to turn up soon.
Soon? There he comes right now, Ben Withers.
Well, Granny's even Ben can't ruin my favorable day.
Well, maybe not, but he can sure bewilder it up for you. You could stand there and say, Ben, your ears are dropping off. He'd just say, fine.
Well, I don't care what he says, it won't bother me none.
Well, howdy, Ben. By the way, your ears are dropping off.
Fine. Well, what's new with you fellows?
Oh, nothing. Lo, you're sure dressed up today, Ben.
Yeah, what's the big occasion?
Yes. You know, Abner, I think my ears just look that way because of my new crew haircut. Here, let me take off my hat and show you.
Oh, my goodness alive. Hey, Lum, look, he's been scalped.
For pity's sake. What did the barber use, a lawnmower?
Looks more like he beat it off with a wet rope.
Don't you think it takes 10 years off of me?
Ben, if he'd have got a half-inch closer, he'd have taken your whole head off.
Say.
Ben, you ain't going over to see some lady friend, are you?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, who is she, Ben?
Oh, no, I'd rather not tell.
Well, just give us a hint. Is she tall or short?
You're close. Oh, my stars, I'm late. I've got to stop at Charlie Redfield's and pick up a present I got for her. See you later.
Yeah, well, wait, Ben. What's her name?
Thank you, I will.
Doggis, who could that woman be?
I don't know. Granny's imagined Ben Withers in love. Stabbed by Cupid's Ari.
Can't you just see him courting? Sit there in a parlor and say, fine. Tell him about the Zinca foozes over at Mount Ida.
Yeah. Just imagine what the woman must look like.
Oh, I'd give anything to find out who that is.
Yeah, so would I.
Hey, Lum, I know what we can do. Let's call up Charlie Redfield and ask him who Ben's getting the present for.
Oh, no, we couldn't do that.
Yeah, what's Charlie's ring over
Now,
there?
Abner, don't be nosy. That's stooping pretty low. Charlie's ring is 2 shorts and a long.
Yeah, I'll get it.
You better talk fast, though. Ben will be over there in a minute. Better disguise your voice, too. I wouldn't want Ben to ever find out we're doing this.
Oh, don't worry. I'll disguise my voice so my own woman would... wait, I hear Charlie picking up his phone.
Charlie Redfield's residence, Ben Withers speaking.
Huh?
Who's calling, please?
Why, this is Mr. Sagittarius.
I didn't quite get that name, Abner.
I said this is... He guessed me, Lum.
Well, hang up.
Can I help you with anything, Abner?
Lum wants to know who you're getting that present for.
Oh, for goodness sake, Abner, don't...
I didn't want to say this in front of Lum. It's Miss Rowena.
Oh, I see. Well, much obliged, Ben. Goodbye.
Well, hurry up, Abner. Tell me. Who is it?
Lum, are you sure you read that horoscope right?
Answer my question. Who's the woman?
Lum, I think somebody's been tampering with your zodiac.
There's nothing wrong with my zodiac. It says I'm a Capricornius goat, and that's what I am.
Well, ain't no doubt about it now.
All right, don't tell me who it is, then. I don't care. Whoever she is, she must be awful hard up for boyfriends. That's all I gotta say.
Well, you're getting warm. Guess again.
Look, Abner, I ain't got time to play games. I've got to get over to see Miss Rowena before my favorable day is over.
I got news for you. It's over.
What do you mean? Wait a minute. Ben's girl ain't Miss Rowena, is it?
It ain't Tallulah Bankhead.
Why, that snake in the weeds, that varmint. No wonder he acted so sneaky. Well, don't just stand there, Abner. Say something.
You care for a hazelnut?
No. Come on, get your hat.
Well, here, I ain't going nowhere.
Yes, you are. We're going to fight this through if it takes every ounce of strength you've got. Come on.
And it is my fervent hope, Miss Rowena, that this token of my highly esteem for one so fair as your personage will be warmly accepted by the fair personage above mentioned.
What did you say?
Fine.
Well, it's really a frightfully lovely gift, Mr. Withers, but frightful.
Highly.
Just what kind of a dog is it? It is a dog, isn't it?
The man I bought it from leaned to that opinion.
Well, I must say it looks more like a bison.
Oh, no, the bison is extinct.
Yes, I noticed that when you brought him in.
According to Charlie Redfield, the former owner, it's a full-blooded lapdog.
That huge beast, a lapdog?
Yes. Many's the evening I've gone over to Charlie's and seen him sitting in the dog's lap.
Mr. Withers, I feel terribly selfish depriving Mr. Redfield of his pet. Perhaps you'd better take it back to him.
Oh, no, Charlie wants you to have the dog as much as I do. In fact, the last thing he said was, whatever you do, don't bring that chow hound back.
Oh, is it a chow dog?
It certainly is. It eats constantly.
I'm afraid I wouldn't be able to give this delicate animal a proper care.
Oh, your cousin Ezra will love to take care of it for you. Didn't you notice when I brought the dog in how Ezra became attached to him?
Well, what else could he do? The dog wouldn't let go.
By the way, where did they go?
Well, the last I saw, he was dragging Ezra into the kitchen.
Oh, yes, they're undoubtedly out there getting acquainted. They're acquainted.
Hey, listen here, Ben Withers. Do you intend to leave that there man-eater here? Just look at the seat of my...
Ezra!
Wait.
Now, look here, Ben.
And to you, fair lady, until we meet again, let me bid you a highly au revoir.
Hey, look, Abner. Ben's just leaving. Duck behind them bushes. I don't aim to see us.
Doggies looked at him reared back there like he personal moved Bing Crosby to CBS.
Ain't that disgusting?
Hey, Lum, look, Ben left the door open a little bit there. Maybe if we ease up to it, we can hear what Miss Rowena's saying.
Abner, it ain't polite to eavesdrop, especially if you're caught doing it. So be quiet.
Now, Ezra, don't get so upset. Mr. Withers isn't so terrible. He's just, shall we say, quaint?
Yes, let's.
Abner.
Oh, Ben. Hey, Ben, don't bother me. I'm used to him. But by Jiminy, you got to get rid of that there other thing. That there seedy-looking varmint.
Hey, Lum, he's talking about you.
But you can't hold his looks against him. Anything as old as he is bound to look seedy.
Huh?
I tell you, Rowena, I ain't gonna have him hanging around this your place. Clumsy critter. Can't walk through the house without a breaking everything in it.
Oh, I busted a little bitty old vase once.
Well, I don't know about that. But I can't stand the way he sits and stares at me with that stupid look.
I know what she means.
With his tongue hanging out.
Do you do that, Lum?
I most certainly do not.
Well, if you don't get rid of him, I will. I'll take him out and drown him.
Ezra, what a horrible thought.
Yeah, ain't it?
I won't let you do that.
Good.
There must be some easier way.
Oh.
Oh, I know. Perhaps we could keep him and teach him some tricks.
You can't teach your old dog new tricks.
I ain't so old.
He might bring in the newspapers, go get the mail.
Yeah, Lum, you could learn that if you put your head to it.
Well, I doubt if that dumb critter could learn anything.
Ezra ain't your biggest booster, is he?
Well, maybe we should get rid of him. You know, sometimes the way he looks at me, I'm afraid he might bite.
What with?
You know, Ezra, I think he's part wolf.
Now, there's the first nice thing she said about it.
I tell you right now, I ain't gonna have him around. I'll poison him or shoot him or something.
Oh, now, Ezra.
Well, we gotta get shut of him.
Oh, yes, I guess you're right.
Say, I wonder if Miss Peabody would want him.
Now, wait just a minute.
Ezra, did you hear somebody?
Yeah, it sounded right outside the door there.
Yes, I thought so, too. What? Mr. Edwards. What in the world are you doing out there?
Care for a hazelnut?
No, thank you. But you know, I was just thinking about inviting you to dinner this evening. I have something special in mind I want to prepare just for you.
Yeah, I know.
And when you taste it, you'll die, but simply die.
Hello there. Anybody here?
Oh, come on in, Mr. Niles.
Oh, say, Mr. Edwards, what's this I hear about you, you old rascal? Invited over to Mr. Rowena's for dinner tonight, eh?
Oh, yeah, I believe she did say something about coming over.
Lum, you know she did. Guess you know why, too.
Yeah, and this is one time I hope I'm wrong.
Well, I'll bet I can guess. The women folk want to show off that fine new Frigidaire refrigerator Ezra bought his wife for Christmas.
Well, that don't make sense. Lum's already seen it. We sold that to Ezra for cash.
No, I mean, they want to show Lum what a fine dinner they can prepare with its help. I can just imagine it. A real country dinner. Maybe a delicious roast, or fried chicken, or even turkey. They could have bought it days ago and kept it safe till now. Wouldn't have crowded things either. There's so much extra room in the new Frigidaire refrigerators.
Yeah, but I don't know now.
Now, just think what a big help a Frigidaire refrigerator is when it comes to preparing a meal. All that space for frozen foods. A big, easy sliding hydrator for fruits and vegetables. Lots of room for keeping salads chilled after they're made. Plenty of coal for freezing desserts in a hurry. And as for ice cubes, well, we all know there's nothing like those easy-acting Frigidaire quick cube trays. Yes, sir. Now that they have a new Frigidaire refrigerator, I'll bet you have a swell dinner over at Miss Rowena's tonight, Mr. Edwards.
But, Mr. Niles...
Yes, I know. You think I've forgotten the most important thing of all, but I haven't. It's the mechanism that makes the cold in every Frigidaire refrigerator. The famous meter miser, simplest cold-making mechanism ever built. Was that what you wanted to tell me?
No, Mr. Niles. I was just wondering, well, if you think it's going to be such good eating over at Miss Rowena's tonight, how'd you like to go over with me, old pal? I'll tell you what I'll do for you, old pal. You can have the first helping of everything.
Say, now that's awfully nice of you, Mr. Edwards. I've got a lot of calls to make, but I'll try to get there if it kills me.
Now, that's what I call a true friend. A true friend. Lum, you surely ain't crazy enough to go over to Miss Rowena's after what we heard. Why, no telling what they'll do to you.
Well, I just
You
don't
might
know.
be a goat, but there's a few things even you can't eat. And poison is one of them.
I just can't believe her and Ezra meant all them things they are saying. Now, you take Ezra. He's knowed me for years and years.
Yeah, you could see why he'd say such things. But Miss Rowena don't know you that good.
Well, I grannies, they ain't gonna scare me. I'm going over there right now. Now, don't hold me back, Abner.
I ain't holding you back.
Oh, that's right, ain't it? Well, why ain't you? Fine friend you are, letting me walk right into a death trap.
Well, Lum, you said you weren't scared, so I just...
Well, I ain't neither. I'm going over there and... Abner, do you think Ezra'd actually drown me?
Oh, Lord, no, Lum. Of course not. That's silly. The mill pond's froze over now.
Well, I grannies, I ain't scared of that Ezra Seastrunk. I'm going over there right... Wait a minute. That was our ring, Abner. That was our ring.
Well, here, don't get so excited. I'll answer it. Hello, jot him down, store. Why, no, Lum's still here. He won't be for long, though. Why, sure, I'll tell him, Miss Rowena. Goodbye.
What you want, huh? What you want, Abner?
Well, she wants you to stop by Miss Blevins' on your way over here and pick up a butcher knife for her.
A butcher knife?
What she said.
I thought Ezra's ideas was better than that.
Well, I doubt if you'll get a choice. Well, for the land's sakes, there comes Luke Spears.
Sure is dark out. Good night for a murder.
Yeah.
By the way, you're going over to see Miss Rowena tonight, ain't you?
How'd you know?
No, Ezra was in my restaurant a while ago, and he told me. He said Rowena's setting her cap for you.
I think that word is trap.
Well, whatever it is, as long as you're going over there, you might as well take this rope over to Ezra.
Rope?
Yeah, he bought it today and then forgot it and left it at my place.
Did he say what he was going to use it for?
Yeah. Said he was going to tie some old dog up to a tree. Well, have a nice time tonight, Lum. See you later, I hope.
Yeah. That settles it, Abner. I'm going home, and you're coming with me.
Well, here, don't drag me, Lum. Let me get my hat first.
You can get it tomorrow. Come on. I hope I don't have any more favorable days this month. One more would kill me.
Oh, Lum, wait a minute,
Oh,
Lum.
my goodness, there comes Ezra. He must have been laying for me.
Wait a second, Lum. I'll walk over to the place with you.
Well, Ezra, I'm feared I'm going to be voidably detained tonight.
Oh, you can't back out now. Rowena's got everything planned for you.
Yeah, I know, but I...
Well, come on. We'd better hurry.
But, Ezra, now listen. Turn loose of me, Ezra.
Well, now sit right down there on the sofa, Mr. Edwards. I'll have everything ready in just a few minutes.
Well, don't hurry nothing on my account.
And I'm so glad you came along, too, Mr. Peabody.
Well, now, this was Lum's idea. I think I better be running along now.
You sit down, Abner.
Yes, do stay. I want you to have some of the special dish I'm preparing for Mr. Edwards.
How?
By the way, Mr. Edwards, did you bring the knife?
Why, no, Mom, I plumb forgot it. I'm sorry to say.
Well, I'll find something else to use.
We brung the rope.
The rope?
No, that's something I'm going to use on, well, you know.
Oh, yes.
Well, we sure enjoyed the evening, Miss Rowena.
Now, you sit right down there, you impatient boy. I'll have everything on the table in just a second. He's stone cold dead in the market.
Say, Lum, while she's out, now's my chance to show you what I bought today. Hey, look there. A genuine Civil War musket.
Now, Ezra, put that gun down.
Well, Lum, I just wanted to show it to you.
Well, show it to Abner.
Oh, no, Ezra. I've got a wife and daughter to look out for now.
All right, now, boys. Dinner is served.
Oh, good. Come on, fellas.
I believe I'll just set this one out.
Yeah, I'll sit with him so he won't get lonesome.
Oh, come on now. Come on.
Yes, do hurry. I don't like to see things get cold.
Neither do I.
You sit there, Mr. Peabody. And you sit by me, Mr. Edwards.
Yeah, much obliged.
Here now, Mr. Edwards, I want you to be the first to sample my special dish, mushroom souffle.
Mushroom?
Yes. You know, I made this for the ladies' club one day, and half of them turned green.
Turn green?
Yes, with envy.
Oh.
Oh, here now, you want a bigger helping than that.
I ain't awful hungry tonight for some reason.
Oh, well, here, Mr. Peabody, I know you'll want a lot.
No, thank you, no.
Oh, please do. You ought to at least try it. One mouthful isn't going to kill you.
How much does it take?
Oh, dear, this is such a disappointment to me. I thought you just loved the souffle. You know, this same recipe was used for Louis the 15th.
Whereabouts is Louis now?
Oh, he's dead. Naturally.
Natural.
My, what a silly question.
Yeah, I guess it was.
You say he was the 15th?
Yes, I think he was the 15th. Either the 15th or the 16th. I don't... Oh, come on now, Mr. Peabody. Please, eat.
No, Mom, I don't aim to be the 17th.
Oh, now, who's that come around at your time of night?
He's wearing a hood and toting a long sigh. Tell him I ain't here.
Come in. Fella can't sit down for 1 minute.
Good evening, fair lady. I was just... Oh, Lum. I thought you'd be gone by now.
I did, too.
Mr. Withers, won't you join us?
I would be very highly pleased.
Here. Perhaps you'll try some of my own special mushroom souffle.
It looks highly delicious indeed.
Now, Doggies, Ben, don't touch that stuff. Put that down. It's poison.
Poison? Oh, dear me, no. Now, surely it's not that bad.
Now, listen, we're on to you. Me and Lum stood outside that door this afternoon and heard you and Ezra tell how you was going to get rid of Lum.
Get rid of Lum? Why, my dear man.
Well, we was talking about that there present men brought over. That there overgrown dog.
What's this? Is that all you think of my gift, Miss Rowena?
Oh, dear, no, of course not, Mr. Withers.
Then it was me you was talking about.
No, it wasn't. Oh, my, I'm so confused.
I consider myself highly insulted, and I'm going to take back the dog.
Good. He's tied up in the pantry. Get him out of here.
Fine.
Oh, Mr. Edwards, I'm so sorry that you ever thought I'd do anything to harm you. Why, I think more of you than any person I'd ever known in my whole life.
Why, Miss Rowena, Granny, this is my favorable day.
Look out, he's loose. Watch him, Lum. He's there.
Help, nice doggy. Help, hey, let go. Help.
Well, sir, that's peculiar. Lum didn't even say good night.
Now, look what you've done, Benjamin Withers. If Mr. Edwards had stayed 5 more minutes, I would have had him proposing to me.
Dogies, I believe that horoscope is right. If he'd stayed here another 5 minutes, he would have been a goat, sure enough.
Lum and Abner will be back in just a moment, but first, here is an important question. If you're thinking of buying a home freezer, wouldn't you rather have the one that gives you the most advantages? Then choose a Frigidaire home freezer, the only one with the famous meter miser, simplest cold-making mechanism ever built. 8 cubic foot size, just right for most families. Ask your Frigidaire dealer all about it, and about larger Frigidaire farm freezers, too.
Abner, are you familiar with the American economic system?
Oh, sure. What is it?
Well, I can't break it down into little bitty enough words for you to understand, but it gives us a higher standard of living and more individual freedom than any other system of government in the world. So let's preserve it. Let's improve it, because the better we produce, the better we live.
The new Lum and Abner show is brought to you each week with the best wishes of your Frigidaire dealer and Frigidaire division of General Motors, manufacturers of a complete line of home appliances, air conditioners, and commercial refrigeration equipment. Ben Withers is played by Clarence Hartzell. The script is written by Roz Rogers and Betty Boyle, with music by Felix Mills. So until next Sunday night, same time, same station, this is Wendell Niles saying good night for Frigidaire, America's #1 refrigerator. This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
And there you have it, wrapping up our look at Sunday, January 23rd, 1949, 76 years ago today, 10 p.m. Eastern Time on CBS, Lum and Abner here on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. On our Friday show, we'll have Jack Benny from 1954, Joan Davis Time from 1948, Father Knows Best from 1952, George and Gracie from 1946, and an episode of Claudia. That's all coming up tomorrow on our podcast. But up next, Ezra Stone, Jackie Kelk in the Aldrich Family.
Two weeks, 14 days, 326 hours. Every second that your family could be exposed to radiation after a nuclear attack. Radiation that kills.
To survive, a fallout shelter is a necessity. Equipment and supplies are essential.
Now, Survive All Shelters, one of the nation's leading manufacturers of fallout shelters, offers a basic equipment kit with
a Conelrad high-powered radio, transistor operated for long battery life,
a complete, fully stocked first aid kit,
a heavy-duty fire extinguisher, emergency water containers, a chemical toilet for protection against contamination and disease,
extra-strength Saran and Rayon bunks,
a radiation meter, and individual dosimeters.
For protection every second of each hour of every day. See a Survive All Shelter now.
Check out the show notes for more information about the big Survive All Shelter craze back in the 50s and 60s. Right now, Ezra Stone, Jackie Kelk in the Aldrich Family from 84 years ago, January 23rd, 1941.
Coming, Mother.
The Aldrich Family, written by Clifford Goldsmith and starring Ezra Stone. Entertainment for all the family, brought to you by Postum, a tempting, wholesome drink for all the family. Postum. friends, welcome once again to a visit with the Aldrich family. And since this program is intended primarily for your amusement, we hope there's nothing to interfere with your sitting back and enjoying the fun. Of course, if something does interfere, if perhaps you're troubled by a touch of indigestion, we suggest that for the moment you be practical about it. Now, while you think of it, consider whether coffee may cause your indigestion, whether you wouldn't benefit by drinking Postum instead. You see, while coffee is popular with most people, and while many people can drink it without feeling distress, many others cannot. So by all means, if you think coffee upsets you, switch to Postum. For Postum contains no stimulants, nothing upsetting in any way. Just drink fragrant, flavorful Postum instead of coffee, and see if before long your indigestion hasn't gone. See if you don't feel lots more human again after you give Postum a fair trial. There is a neat white house at 117 Elm Street in Centerville. It's the home of the Aldriches, an average American family. Their son, Henry, is typical of any teenage youngster. He's lively, adventurous, a real boy. Tonight we find Henry in the living room with his mother and father.
But why do you say that, dear?
Because, Mother, because I don't want to get mixed up with anybody.
But, Henry, simply writing a letter to a girl doesn't mean you're in love with her.
It could be taken that way. And I'm not even interested in her.
You're not even interested in whom?
In Doris Townsend, Father.
When did you see her?
I didn't see her. I had a letter, just an ordinary short letter from her. And Mother thinks I ought to sit right away and answer it.
Well, Henry, I think she ought to know the truth.
The truth about what?
About me getting married.
Getting what?
Married. That's what the letter's about, Father. She says, "Dear Henry, we happened to read in the Centerville section of last evening's Middletown paper that a Mr. and Mrs. Aldrich announced the engagement of their son. Is this you? If so, Mother says congratulations. Father says who's the lucky girl. Sincerely, Doris."
How did a thing like that get into the paper?
It's a very simple mistake, Sam. The Alderdice boy over on Maple Street is going to be married sometime next spring.
Oh.
And that's why I think Henry should take the time to write to Doris.
But, Mother, why don't we just put a denial in the paper? Then everybody will be satisfied.
Henry, I think your mother would like you to write a letter.
But, Father, I'm due at Nancy Adams right this minute. She's probably sitting over at her house wondering why I'm not there. And here I am here.
But, Henry, by this time you could have had the letter written.
Not and explain things properly, Mother.
Henry, you're to write the letter tonight.
Tonight?
Now.
Now?
Now, Sam, if Nancy Adams is waiting, I don't think it's quite as important as that.
I thought you wanted him to write it.
I do, dear, but after all, why can't he be home by 9:30 and write her a postcard before he goes to bed?
Yes, Mother, that's the least I can do.
Are you sure you'll come home early?
Yes, Mother.
Alice, you don't think he ought to write it before he goes?
Sam, Henry's promised to be here by 9:30.
And gee, Father, you know me. When I promise to do a thing, I break my neck doing it.
Think so, Henry?
Oh, sure, Nancy. You take any marriage. Gee, the average marriage, I think that when a person's... You know what I mean?
Well, as a matter of fact, Henry...
Well, I think they ought to have a diversity of interests.
My, you've thought about this a lot, haven't you?
It's just common sense. Suppose a man marries a girl and all they both like is the same thing. Like, take gardening, for instance. I don't know why I take gardening, but some people do. And they have one. I don't mean a little one, naturally. It's a big one. Lots of acres, like a ranch. Did you know they raise cotton in Arizona?
Who does?
The people in Arizona.
The married people?
I guess both kinds. Why do you ask?
I just wondered whether you know anyone out there.
No, I just may go to school out there.
Really, Henry? I know a boy that goes to school there.
In Arizona?
Yes, I had a letter from him just day before yesterday.
Is that right?
Would you like to have me get it and read you some of it?
No, I don't believe I'd care to hear it.
I'm sure you'd be interested, Henry. He writes beautifully.
Well, the way I look at it, Nancy, if a person gets the idea he has to go all the way to Arizona to go to school, I don't think they deserve to have any state. You know what I mean?
No, I don't.
Well, you take a school. Suppose you're not crazy about it. It's not the fault of the government of the state, is it?
No.
Well, there you are. Your father's a taxpayer, isn't he?
Yes. I never thought of it that way, Henry. Just a second while I answer the phone.
Have you ever tasted Peppermint Crunch ice cream?
No, I haven't. Why?
They served it in the school cafeteria today. It was pretty good.
is Homer. Is Henry there?
Yes?
Tell him I've got to speak to him.
Henry!
Is that my mother?
It's Homer. He wants to speak to you.
Oh, gee whiz, I can't even go visiting without his bothering me. Hello? Now listen, Homer.
Henry, I'm in a terrible predicament.
What's the matter?
I'm over at your house and I want some help on our Latin assignment.
Well, I can't come home just for that, Homer.
But, Henry, I have to have it. My father says I've been fiddling around too much in Latin.
But, gee whiz, I don't have to be home until 9:30, and even then I'm going to be very busy writing a postcard.
All right, Henry, all right. If you want to put Nancy Adams in your correspondence ahead of my homework, all right.
You mean you're going home again?
No, I'll wait. But your father says to be here not a second later than 9:30.
Well, gee, I'll be there. I've got plenty of time.
So long.
Henry, you through?
Sure.
I just ran up to get some of Dick's letters.
Whose?
Dick's. You're so interested in Arizona, I thought you'd like to have me read some parts of them.
Did he write all the letters in that bundle?
My goodness, he's been writing ever since last Christmas when I met him.
Oh.
I don't think he's missed a week since then. Here's one about Arizona's irrigation ditches.
To you?
Yes. Very interesting. He says, "My dear Nancy, did I see a ditch today? It began miles in back of me and came up to me and then went as far as the eye of man could reach. When one realizes that all of this was dug with human hands, it makes one proud to be a member of this human race of ours. After that, we went dancing, and I certainly wished you were there."
They danced in the ditch?
No, that was afterwards. And then he goes on to say...
What?
My goodness, I can't read you that.
Oh.
Here's one. Well, Nancy, here I am writing again. Didn't you scream, Henry? You'd certainly die if you ever met him.
Yeah. He's got a nice sense of humor.
Your letter came this morning, and I have read it at least... No sense in reading that. Now, let's see. I have your picture on my bureau. No. Oh, here's something interesting. Here's something wonderful. Yesterday, a crowd of us saw the Grand Canyon. Boy, is that something.
Is he only interested in ditches?
He's interested in everything, Henry. I'd let you read it yourself, only there's some rather personal things in it. Naturally.
Of course. Is that clock on the mantel right?
Yes, I think so.
Well, gee, I didn't realize it was nearly 8:35.
You mean you have to go?
I'll say I have.
Why so early?
Well, I've got to help Homer with his Latin, and then I've got to write a long letter.
Oh.
Boy, am I ashamed of myself. I bet there are at least 4 letters from this person. I haven't even started to answer.
Well, I'm certainly glad you came over.
The person, will be wondering what's been keeping me.
Does she live very far away, Henry?
No, just in Middletown. But her family's thinking of moving to California, and then, of course, my letters will have to be longer.
Well, I'm awfully sorry you have to go.
Good night, Nancy. And I just want to tell you how much I enjoyed hearing your correspondence. Wait a second, Homer, while I drop this postal card in the mailbox.
It's a nice night, isn't it?
Let's walk back to the house.
Did you ever notice, Henry, when you look up at the moon, it looks as though the clouds were standing still and the moon is what's moving?
So what?
What's the matter with you, Henry?
Nothing's the matter with me.
Well, what'd you come home from Nancy so early for?
Well, you wanted me to help you with your Latin, didn't you? Do you know how many times she's gotten letters from him?
Who's gotten what?
Every week, Homer. Every week since last Christmas. All he talks about is ditches.
Who?
And in the meanwhile, she goes around leading other people on.
Into ditches?
Anybody think that just because somebody you happen to know casually is going to school where you aren't going to school, then, gee whiz, he's pretty wonderful.
Who is?
Who cares how deep the Grand Canyon is? Do you? I ask you.
I'm going home.
Well, go ahead. And not only that, Homer, Nancy's been writing to this guy just as often as he's been writing to her.
Oh. Well, do you know what you ought to do, Henry?
Why should I do anything?
You ought to show her, though. All you have to do is write a letter to some other girl and leave it lying around where Nancy will see it.
You're crazy. You talk as though I cared, Homer.
But she'll eat right out of your hand, Henry. My own sister used to do it.
She did?
Sure, every week.
Did it get results?
Well, she's married, isn't she?
Married? Just from that?
Well, you don't have to let it go that far if you don't want to.
The only trouble is I don't know of any other girl I'd want to write to.
You don't have to. You aren't going to mail it. You're just going to write it and let Nancy see it.
Now, how about this girl you just mailed the postcard to?
Doris Townsend? Well, gee whiz, Homer, I could hardly get up enough interest to write that much to her.
Well, I'll tell you what to say. I remember my sister's letters. Only when you write it, Henry, do it on your father's typewriter. Don't write it in your own handwriting.
Why not?
Because it isn't romantic enough.
Okay, and I'll type it on some blue paper.
Have some toast, Alice?
No, thank you. Sam, I'm worried.
Worried?
Well, dear, I don't like to mention it, but this morning when I went in to make Henry's bed, I happened to see a letter he'd typed to Doris Townsend.
I thought he was just going to send her a postcard.
Well, so did I, Sam. I thought the whole thing was just a casual, ordinary bit of correspondence.
Well,
Sam, I shouldn't have looked at it, but I couldn't help noticing that the letter began, "My darling Doris."
what's that?
That's what it said, Sam. I saw it with my own eyes.
What else did he say?
Well, naturally, dear, I didn't read any more.
Why not?
Well, because it was a personal letter.
But it was your duty as a mother to read it.
Well, if you must know, I did read the first sentence. But that's all.
What did it say?
Your letters have been coming through regularly, and you will never know how they have changed my entire life.
You mean that letter she wrote him wasn't the first one?
No, dear. Apparently that's why Doris Townsend was so concerned. She was afraid Henry really was engaged.
You mean you think it's reached that point?
I know it has. The only thing is, why did he insist last night that he didn't want to write to her?
Well, that's obvious, Alice. He was trying to cover up that... Cover up?
Cover up what?
I don't know.
Well, Sam, I think it's time we did something.
See her, Henry?
Sure, she's sitting right there on the school steps.
And your letter's right in front of her.
But what good will it do, Homer? You dropped it so darn far from her.
I dropped it practically at her feet, Henry. And look, she's got it. She's reading it.
She is? Oh, boy, is she going to get a shock.
Didn't I tell you, Henry?
The only trouble is, Homer, that isn't my letter. Mine's still on the ground.
It is.
Homer, can you see where the one she's reading is from?
How could I? All I can see is it's a fat one.
A fat one? Gee, I wonder... Do you suppose?
Well, if it is from Arizona, don't let it get your goat, Henry.
But, Homer, she doesn't have to read his letters right here on the school grounds. Wouldn't you think she'd have some loyalty to our school?
Look, Henry, she's standing up.
Oh, boy.
She's leaning over. Well, gee whiz, she's only tying her shoelace.
Homer, is she blind? She's even stepping on my letter. Now she's going into the building.
Quick, Henry.
Why?
Your letter's blowing away.
Well, gee whiz, Homer, you go that way and we'll corner it.
Hurry up.
I'm hurrying. Where is she, Homer?
She's right there in the corridor talking to Eleanor Wentworth.
Do you think she saw you when you slipped my letter into her coat pocket?
How could she? I was talking too fast.
Well, she certainly can't miss this one.
And I think it's better than the letter that blew away yesterday. Look, Nancy's walking away.
Well, she puts her hand in her pocket. All my troubles will be over. The only thing is, Homer.
What?
Isn't that my letter sticking out of Eleanor's pocket?
Where?
Listen, Homer, did you put that in the wrong pocket or the wrong coat?
I didn't know they were standing that close together. I saw a pocket and I dropped it in.
Well, we've got to get that away from Eleanor.
I can get it away from her, Henry. We'll just catch up with her, and as we pass, we'll both gently bump into her and I'll grab.
Okay, Homer, but don't trip her.
Quiet, Henry. Do you want her to hear us?
I'm not talking too loud, Homer.
Come on now. We'll give her the brush off.
Well, gee whiz. Hello, Eleanor.
Hi, Eleanor. Oh, gee whiz.
Homer Brown, did you hurt yourself?
Homer.
Oh, I'm awfully sorry if I turned like that. I'm going into the girls' coat room here.
I know, but Eleanor...
Let me pick up my books, Henry.
But Eleanor, wait.
Henry, don't follow her in there. You'll be expelled.
Wondering, after all, if I were a boy and knew a girl as nice as Doris Townsend, I think I'd want a picture of her. Wouldn't you, Sam?
Wouldn't I what?
Like a picture of Doris Townsend.
Oh, yes, of course.
Well, I wouldn't. I just...
You just what?
I just don't think I like any girls.
Not any?
No, Father.
Good, that's fine. Didn't I hear you using my typewriter upstairs just a few minutes ago?
Yes, Father.
What was it you were typing, dear?
Why, just something I was doing over. I typed it night before last, and it blew away yesterday. Then I did another last night, and that got lost today. Through an error.
I see. Homework, dear?
Why, in a way, you might say it was sort of homework.
I was talking with Nancy Adams' mother today. She says Nancy is writing to some boy out in a school in Arizona.
She is?
If I were you, I'd take a little interest.
Well, I'm not going to waste my time on her, Mother.
You'll never find a nicer girl.
Gee whiz, Father, I have other things to think about besides just girls. Gee whiz, I've got a lot of other things on my mind.
Where are you going, dear?
Just upstairs and do a little typing.
Sam.
Well?
Do you think we ought to come right out and forbid his writing any more letters to Doris Townsend?
Now, Alice, let's not make matters any worse than they are. It's much better to be subtle about it. You can't tell. He may be up in his room right this minute wondering whether Doris Townsend is worth it. That's the way a boy's mind operates.
Well, of course, dear. You know more about it than I do.
Oh, Butch Wells.
What do you have, Eleanor?
Butch, did you lose a letter?
No, why?
You didn't? Don't you go around with a girl over in Middletown by the name of Doris Townsend?
Sure, I take her out practically every weekend.
Well, I don't know how it got there, but I found this letter addressed to her in my coat pocket, and I thought it was probably yours.
Let's see it.
Here you are.
Now, listen, this isn't any kind of a joke, is it?
Oh, no.
My darling Doris. Say, what is this?
Who's it from, Butch? Who wrote it?
But getting back to Earth, I hope someday I can show you the Mississippi, which is 2,470 miles long, reaching at some points to a width of 4 miles.
What?
Hey, what I want to know is who wrote this? Where's the end? Have you ever noticed on a moonlight night how the clouds seem to stand still and the moon zooms along at a breathtaking pace? That's how I think of you. Oh, so that's who wrote it.
Who did write it?
Never mind. He isn't going to live long anyhow.
Well, poor Henry is certainly having a tough time getting the right letter to the wrong girl. And whether he ever will manage it is more than I know. But I do know, ladies and gentlemen, that if you'd like to get the right mealtime drink for your family, you really shouldn't miss all the grand things that Postum has to offer you. Believe me, you'll enjoy a good hot cup of Postum for the same reason millions enjoy it. Just because Postum tastes so downright good. Yes, when you pour yourself a steaming cup of Postum and add just a dash of cream and sugar to it, you have a drink that's so tempting in fragrance, so unusually delightful in flavor, that you keep wondering why you never thought of trying it before. Just don't expect Postum to taste like coffee, any more than you'd expect coffee to taste like tea. For naturally, the goodness of Postum is the goodness of a distinctive flavor. A flavor that puts the in Postum. So enjoy delicious hot Postum tomorrow, and be sure to make enough for the young folks to enjoy, too, because Postum is a drink for all the family, just as your family will be all for Postum. Now, getting back to the troubles of Henry Aldrich, in an attempt to make Nancy Adams jealous, Henry has typed several letters to another girl. But instead of mailing them, he has tried to leave them around where Nancy would find them. So far, however, he has been totally unsuccessful and has lost all of the letters he's written. The scene opens now in the typing room at Central High School.
Homer, have you any idea where the A would be on this typewriter?
Why can't you find it yourself?
Haven't you ever seen the typewriters in this classroom? The keys don't have any letters on them.
Well, what good are they then?
Oh, gee whiz.
Did you get an A?
It's a W. Homer, what word is there that begins with W that means the same thing?
As what?
As angel.
Why don't you just make it Winged Angel?
Winged? My winged angel?
Sure.
Where do you think the I would be?
Used to be around here somewhere. Are you making plenty of carbon copies this time, Henry?
Sure, look out. Oh, gee.
Did you get an I?
An H. Now what am I going to do? I've got W-H.
Why don't you make it White Winged Angel?
Yeah, that's nice. The only trouble is, Homer, if we don't find it this time, we're really stuck.
Hello, Sam.
Yes, Alice?
Sam, I'm sorry to call you away from the office, but I want you to come home right away.
What for?
Well, Doris Townsend's mother is here.
What's on her mind?
I can't tell you on the phone, dear, but the sooner you come home, the better. She's terribly upset.
Yes? I'll come over right away, Alice. But remember this. No matter what she says, the girl is probably just as much to blame as Henry is.
Homer, are you sure she finally found my letter?
Yes, Henry. I put it right in her lunchbox, right on top of her lemon pie.
Are you sure she didn't tear it up or anything?
Why should she? A letter written by you to another girl that you're calling a white-winged angel?
Well, it took me darn near a week to get it to her.
All you have to do now, Henry, is go home. By Monday, Nancy will be eating out of your hand.
By Monday?
Well, that's the way it works with my sister.
Henry!
Oh, gee whiz. Hello, Eleanor.
It's Nancy, Henry.
Oh.
Henry, I've been looking all over for you.
For me?
Hi, Nancy. Gee, do you look worried?
Well, in a way, I am. I've got something here that belongs to Henry, and I'm quite sure he'd want it.
Something of mine?
Something of Henry's?
Yes, and I haven't the slightest idea how I got it. It's this letter you wrote to somebody.
Oh, yes.
But I didn't read it, Henry. I know you'll probably think I did, but I give you my word that I didn't do any more than just look at it to see whose it was.
You didn't? Why not?
Well, bye, Henry. I'm awfully glad I happened to find you.
Goodbye. Thanks very much for giving it back to me. That's a fine thing, Homer. That's a fine thing.
Well, what's she got against reading somebody else's mail?
After all, if all she cares about is that fellow in Arizona, why should I... There are other girls besides Nancy Adams.
Sure there are.
That's what I say. Sure there are. She isn't so wonderful. Hiya, fellas. Oh, hello, Willie.
Hello.
Miss Eggleston wanted me to give you your English papers.
You've got mine?
Sure, here. Here, Henry. And boy, you better watch out if Butch Wells sees you. Why should I worry about him? But didn't you write a letter to his girl in Middletown? Who, me? Sure, to Doris Townsend. It's all over school. Butch knows Doris Townsend? Why not? She's a steady, isn't she?
Is that right?
And gee, he's the biggest guy in school, Henry. Well, I'd like to see him start something.
Henry, how much did you get on your English?
C+.
C+.
Listen, Homer, how did Miss Eggleston get this?
What is it?
It's one of my darn letters to Doris Townsend.
How did you happen to hand that in?
She says, interesting, but why didn't you stick to original theme instead of dragging in the Mississippi?
Well, that's a fair enough criticism. You know, Henry, I'll bet your letters are lying around all over the school.
I'll say.
Henry, look out. Here comes Butch Welch.
Butch?
Hey, Henry.
Now, wait, Butch. It was all a mistake.
Mistake my eye. Come here.
Write him a letter, Henry.
All right, Aldrich.
Hey, Butch, let go of me.
What's the idea of trying to cut me out with Doris Townsend?
I didn't. You're twisting my arm.
Yeah?
Hey, Butch, let go of Henry.
Go sit down.
You make me. Gee whiz.
Butch!
You going to keep away from my girl?
Now, listen, Butch.
How do you like that?
Oh, gee whiz.
Now write her another letter and tell her what I did to you.
You want me to help you up, Henry?
Henry!
Is that you, Nancy?
What happened to you?
We're looking for something down here.
What was Butch Welch doing to Henry?
To me? Gee whiz, he wasn't doing anything.
Well, my goodness, Henry, your folks just phoned the main office and they said you're to come right home the very minute school's out.
I wonder what that could be about.
I don't see why you have to feel that way about it, Henry. After all, Butch is 3 times as big as you.
Did you brush the back of my coat, Homer?
Sure, your folks won't notice a thing.
Henry!
Yes, Mother, where are you?
I want you to come into the living room. Your father and I want to have a talk with you.
A talk with I, Mother?
Yes, Henry.
Has something gone wrong, Father?
How did you tear your coat pocket?
Oh, that? That?
Well, gee whiz.
Homer, dear, would you mind leaving the room?
You want me to go?
We do. Please go up to Henry's room until we're through.
Couldn't I wait out in the kitchen?
You could not. Please go upstairs.
Yes, Mrs. Aldrich. I'll wait up there.
Now then, Henry.
Yes, Father.
Your mother wants to have a talk with you.
Sam, I think you're the one that should have a talk with him.
Aren't you the one Doris Townsend's mother talked to?
Doris Townsend's mother?
Yes, dear. She's been here.
That would be putting it mildly.
What?
Henry, Doris Townsend was never so upset in her life.
She's upset. She's upset.
Over the letters you've been writing her.
How did she get any of those?
What do you mean, how did she get any of them? Haven't you been writing her?
I've been... Look, Father.
Have you been writing her?
Yes, sir, I've been writing her, but I haven't been mailing them.
What have you been doing with them?
I've been losing them.
Henry, don't be absurd.
But I have, Mother.
If you didn't intend mailing them, why did you write them?
Because...
They were written to be read by someone, weren't they?
Yes, sir, but not by Doris Townsend.
Then by whom, dear?
Look, Mother, I know you won't believe it, but there are copies of my letter all over Central High School.
What do you mean by that?
Father, this English paper is a very good example.
You mean you failed in English?
No, I got a C+ for it.
Let me see it.
Now, Alice, don't let him evade the issue. We're talking about his letters.
But, Sam, this is a letter.
To Doris Townsend?
Yes, dear. That's what Henry's been trying to tell us. He wrote those letters for English. He never intended to mail any of them. Did you, dear?
Well, look, Mother.
Of course you didn't. It's as clear as day, Sam.
Well, Why did Doris Townsend's mother have to get so upset over a composition?
That's exactly what I wondered. Sam, I'm going to the phone and tell her.
And give her my regards.
Hey, Henry. Henry.
Here's your composition, Henry.
Oh, am I interrupting a lecture?
You are not interrupting anything, Homer. Only, Henry, next time see to it that you get more than a C+.
Yes, Father.
Henry, you know that letter Nancy handed back to you?
Yeah.
Well, that isn't one of your letters.
Whose is it?
It's a letter she wrote to the guy in Arizona.
From her?
Do you mind if I see what it says?
Wait, Homer, that letter wasn't meant to be read.
What do you mean it wasn't? It isn't even sealed. She says...
Now listen, Homer, give that to me.
Oh, boy.
Homer.
Oh, boy.
Homer.
Oh, boy.
Are you reading it all, Homer?
The whole thing's about you.
About me?
She says you're one of the nicest, sweetest boys she's ever known.
Who, me?
Henry, you're one of the nicest, sweetest boys she's ever known.
Now, wait, Homer, she said that about me? Well, gee whiz, can you imagine that?
Henry Aldrich will be back in just a moment. In the meanwhile, folks, a reminder of the double-barreled reason why you'll like Postum. For one thing, you like it if coffee upsets you. For another, you like it just because Postum tastes so swell. It's a grand, tempting drink for all the family. So get Postum from your grocer tomorrow.
No, Mother, I'm sure I don't feel well enough to go to school today.
But, Henry, you'll miss some very important work.
No, I won't, Mother. I won't miss a thing. All we were going to do today, anyhow, is read our English compositions in front of the class. And I never felt so low in my life.
Here is a popular Christmas suggestion. In addition to your other presents, give United States defense bonds and stamps. Make patriotism a part of your giving. The money you spend for defense bonds helps to resist tyranny and oppression, helps keep the spirit of Christmas alive in this country. So buy defense bonds and stamps, and keep on buying them for yourself and for your friends this Christmas. Be sure to listen again next week to the Aldrich Family, same time, same station, for another sparkling half hour with your favorite youngster, his family, and his pals. The Aldrich Family, starring Ezra Stone, is written by Clifford Goldsmith. Original music is composed and conducted by Jack Miller. This is Harry Von Zell saying, you will enjoy fragrant, flavorful Postum. And remember, Postum contains no stimulants. It cannot give you indigestion. Good night.
Oh, boy. That's typical Henry Aldrich. Let's go up something a little more recent. After I remind you, come visit us at classicradio.stream if you like what we do here. But up next, an episode of Groucho Marx and You Bet Your Life.
Friends, this is Bob Hope. If an atom bomb were to hit your home city, would you know what to do? Remember, one explosion of an atom bomb could kill 75,000 and maim 100,000. This is only one kind of a disaster which could strike. In addition to many forms of enemy action, there are the dangers of fire, flood, earthquake, and traffic. Knowing what to do before, during, and after a disaster can improve your chances of survival. There is something you can do and do now. You can learn a pattern of survival. Your local Office of Civil Defense is ready to help. Persuade your club, your church, your friends, and your neighbors to help to learn to live. Remember, this is the atomic age. No one can escape its hazards, but everyone can prepare. Listen carefully. What you are about to hear can save your life. Do you know the siren signal in case of atomic attack? Do you know how to find shelter? Do you know how to give first aid? Do you know what will be done for your safety? For further details, consult your local Office of Civil Defense.
Doesn't matter whether it's an atomic bomb or the wildfires in California. Being prepared is most important. Always be prepared. Let's go back 73 years to January 23rd, 1952. Groucho Marx and You Bet Your Life. And Mr. Fenneman, what's the secret word?
The secret word tonight is water. W-A-T-E-R.
Really?
You Bet Your Life. The more than 3,000 DeSoto Plymouth dealers of America present Groucho Marx in You Bet Your Life, the comedy quiz series produced and transcribed from Hollywood. And here he is, the one, the only...
Gad, what a cad. Oh, that's me. Well, here I am again with 1,500 smackers for one of our couples.
Groucho, our studio audience selected some newlyweds to be on our show tonight just before we went on the air, and here they come, Mr. and Mrs. Jerry Engel. Come on in here and meet Groucho Marx.
Welcome, youngsters, for the DeSoto Plymouth dealers. Say the secret word and you'll divide $100. It's a common word, something you see every day. Mr. and Mrs. Jerry, newlyweds. Well, I'm always happy to see newlyweds up here. It gives us a warm, cozy, glowing feeling. Say, I sound like Fireside Theater. You're the groom, I presume, huh? Yes. Pretty sharp tonight. Huh? Where are you all from?
Well, I'm from Long Beach.
How long since you left Long Beach?
10 years.
You mean it took you that long to get a bus?
Well.
And Mrs. Engel, huh? What's your first name?
Laurie.
Laurie?
Yes.
Like a motor Laurie, you mean? How do you say? Oh, Laurie, huh? Like Annie Lou. Where are you from?
The Bronx.
Wow. How old are you, Laurie? I realize the gentleman never asked that question, so how old are you?
I'm 20.
20, huh? Whereabouts in the Bronx did you live? I used to live in the Bronx years ago.
I live near the Bronx Zoo.
You lived near the Bronx Zoo? I lived in it. Well, let's find out something about you two. Jerry, how newly-wedded are you? Are you still on your honeymoon?
Well, yes and no.
Yes and no? You mean she's still honeymooning, but the honeymoon is over as far as you're concerned, is that it? Would you straighten me out, Laurie?
Well, the formal honeymoon is over, but, well, we hope that our marriage will always be honeymoon.
Well, that's that's what I like about newlyweds. They're so warm and cozy and glowing. Plus that they haven't the slightest idea what they're talking about. Now, I hope with you that your marriage will be a long and successful one and that you have a constant honeymoon up until your golden wedding. And then you can start slugging it out. What sort of work do you do, Jerry?
Well, at the present time, Mr. Marx, I'm an auditor, and I'm hoping to become a CPA.
Must be a pretty shady racket if you have to spell it. What is a CPA? Is that anything like an APA or an OPA?
No, that stands for Certified Public Accountant.
Mm-hmm. Well, how do I know you're certified? You don't even look homogenized. What does certified mean? They vaccinate you or something each morning before you go to work?
Well, a certified public accountant is an accountant who's been licensed by the state.
Why do I always run into these curious occupations? Why couldn't you just come up here and say you were a plumber?
Well, I'm not a plumber.
Well, if you were, you'd have to hire your own CPA. I know, I paid a plumbing bill yesterday. $19 for a washer. Laurie, what kind of work does your husband do?
He balances books, and he helps fix income tax statements. I mean, he prepares
You don't mean that he fixes them, eh? You mean that he prepares them? Is that what you mean? First you prepare them, and then they get fixed. Suppose I hired you. What could you do for me, Jerry?
Well, it depends. It matters what your requirements are.
My requirements are very simple. A loaf of bread, a jug of wine, and Phil Spitalny's all-girl orchestra. Well, Jerry, stop evading the issue. What kind of services could you perform for me?
Well, I could manage your personal affairs.
Thanks. If it's all the same to you, I'll manage my own personal. And you, a newlywed, you ought to be ashamed of yourself. Now, in just 1 minute, you're going to play You Bet Your Life for a chance at the $1,500 question. But before you do, here's something that every young couple should know.
The new, the 1952 DeSoto gives you greater safety than ever with big 12-inch Safeguard hydraulic brakes. Just a slight pedal pressure brings you to a smooth, straight-line stop. And here's why. On the front brakes, one shoe is anchored at the top and the other at the bottom. Thus, the rotation of the wheel wedges the shoe between the anchor and the drum, adding to the effective braking force. No doubt about it. No car in America has bigger, better brakes than the new, the 1952 DeSoto. And no car in America has a handier, safer parking brake either. DeSoto's parking brake is part of an independent braking system and gives 3 times, yes, 3 times the holding power of ordinary parking brakes. So drive a DeSoto before you decide. Safe to drive, a beauty to look at, and a real value, too. The car that's designed for you and your budget, too. The great new 1952 DeSoto. Now at your DeSoto Plymouth dealers. And remember, all dealers who sell DeSoto also sell Plymouth, the low-priced car, most like high-priced cars.
All right, now let's see how you work together as a team. George, would you mind explaining the rules to these Hansel and Gretel over here?
All right. You bet as much of your $20 as you want on each of 4 questions, and the couple that earns the most money gets a chance at the $1,500 DeSoto Plymouth question later in the show.
Here we go. Let's see how high I can build you $20. You selected adjacent states. Here's your first question. How much of the $20 are you going to bet?
16.
This is 16. All right. What state is directly north of Oregon?
Washington.
Washington is right.
Well, you're off to a good start. You have $36.
Remember, you're going for $1,500 tonight. How much of your $36 will you bet on your second question?
35.
35. What state is directly west of Texas?
Texas is New Mexico.
New Mexico is on the button.
Really on your way. You have $71.
Aren't you proud of him, Laurie?
Yes.
Here's your third question. How much of the 71 are you going to go for?
70.
She's the boss.
When they start admitting that on the 6th month. All right, you're going to bet 70. What state is directly west of Utah?
Utah. Nevada.
Nevada is correct.
You now have $141.
And here's your last chance to beat the other couples. How much of the 141?
All of it.
All right. What state is directly south of Georgia?
Florida.
Florida is right.
And you wind up with $282.
Put it there, kid. Thanks and good luck from the DeSoto Plymouth dealers.
We have a barber and a lady pharmacist for you now, Groucho. They both were selected from the audience just before we went on the air. Miss Nadine McLaughlin, Mr. Louis Horrow, come in here and meet Groucho Marx.
Well, welcome to You Bet Your Life. Say the secret word and divide $100. It's a common word, something you see every day. Let's see now. A lady pharmacist and a barber, eh? Miss McLaughlin, are you the barber?
No, I'm the pharmacist.
Oh, you're the pharmacist. May I ask how old you are?
I'm 21.
21. Are you married?
Yes.
Well, I'm off to Mexico anyhow tonight. Tell me, you say you're married. Is he a pharmacist's mate?
Well, yes. And I'm a pharmacist's mate because he's a pharmacist and I'm a pharmacist.
Oh, both pharmacists, huh?
Right.
Oh, you're really a drug on the market between you. How did you meet your husband?
Well, it was down in a laboratory at the University of Southern California, and we were rolling pills together. And, well, one thing led to another, and...
Yes, I guess. What do you mean? You were rolling pills down the hall? Or?
No, you roll them in your fingers.
Oh, is that the way you roll pills? Oh. And what happened? You like the way he was rolling these things?
Well, I decided that if I couldn't catch a husband in pharmacy school where the boys outnumbered the girls 20-1, that I'd be doomed to sell aspirin the rest of my life.
What grain, do you remember?
What difference does it make?
It really doesn't make any difference. But it's always nice to have some kind of a rejoinder when somebody gets through making a statement that bewilders me. Mr. Louis Harrow, huh?
Yes,
you
sir.
must be the barber, huh?
Yes, I am.
Where are you from, Louis?
I'm from Guadalajara, Mexico.
Oh, I Guadalajara at home. She's about 5 years old now. I'll be in Mexico tomorrow morning.
Well, congratulations.
Are you congratulating me or Mexico? Oh. Are you married, Louis?
Yes, I am.
Mm-hmm. You have children?
Oh, we only have 5 children. That's the first batch, you know.
First batch. What are you raising? Cookies? I guess these are raisin cookies. What are their names? Do you recall any of their names?
Well, it's quite confusing. You see, my oldest boy's name is after me, and my daughter's after my wife.
The older boy is after you?
I mean, has the same name as mine.
Oh.
So
what's his name?
Louis.
Oh.
So
that's a coincidence. That's the same name you've got.
So we call him...
wonders never cease.
So we call him by numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, to make it easier, so it won't be so confusing.
What do you mean, make it easier for the next batch, you mean?
Well...
You're going to start off again with Louis on the second 5?
Well, probably we start a family of Louis the 15th, probably.
Pretty snappy with a quip, this Bob. That's the type that won't let you read a newspaper. How'd you meet your wife, number 1?
Well, I met her in a department store. I went in there to get some shirts. Unfortunately, I didn't know my size, so she was very glad to tell me what size I was supposed to wear.
How old were you then, Louis?
Well, I was 21.
You were 21? You didn't know what size shirt you wore?
No.
I may not go to Mexico, Louis. Well, you've taught me a lot tonight, and if I'm smart, I'll never take another pill unless I'm getting my hair cut. And if you're smart, you'll visit your DeSoto Plymouth dealer for the best in service. Remember that, Nadine. And you too, Louis. Now you're going to play You Bet Your Life. You beat our other couples, and you'll get a chance at the $1,500 question. I can't tell you how much you have to win, but George is going to remind our listeners.
The newlyweds won $282, and the secret word is water.
Here we go. Let's see how high I can build you $20. You selected United States river cities. Here's your first question. How much will you bet?
Well, 16. 16.
All right. It's $16. On what river is the city of Cincinnati?
Ohio.
That's right, Ohio. You know, you can talk it over. Well, you're on your way. You have $36. Remember, you're going for $1,500 tonight. How much of the 36 will you bet on your second question?
33.
33. On what river is the city of El Paso?
Rio Grande.
Rio Grande is right.
You now have $69.
Rio Grande. Here's your third question, then. How much will you bet at the 69 smackers?
How many more rivers do you know?
That's got to tell.
Well, let's go, Rivers. He fought battling Nelson and Old Man Rivers.
67.
67. All right. And what river is the city of Minneapolis? On what river? On what river is the city of Minneapolis?
St. Lawrence?
Guess.
St. Lawrence?
Mississippi River runs all the way down from Minneapolis down to New Orleans.
You now have $2.
All right, here's your last chance to beat the other couples. How much will you bet?
$2.
$2. On what river is the city of Albany?
Albany, that's in New York.
Take a guess.
I'm sorry.
Well, it's the Hudson River.
Roger.
Well, we can't let you go away from here broke. I'll give you one more question. You answer it correctly, and we'll see that you don't leave here with less than $25. You've got nothing, so the $25 will make up the difference. That's obscure to me, too. Now, think hard now, and please no help from the audience. In what city do you find the Hollywood YWCA?
Hollywood.
Hollywood is right. Put it in. Thanks and good luck from the DeSoto Plymouth dealers.
We asked if there were any women present tonight who had unusual hobbies. And just before we went on the air, Mrs. Mary V. Hood was selected. Her partner, Mr. James W. Monte, is a very unusual man, Groucho, and I'm sure you'll understand why I invite him to be at our show tonight when you meet him. So, folks, come on in and meet Groucho Marx.
Welcome, kids, for the DeSoto Plymouth dealers. Say the secret word and divide $100. It's a common word, something you see every day. Mrs. Mary V. Hood and Mr. James W. Monte. Mrs. Hood, where are you from originally?
I was born at Valescure in France.
You were born in France? Mm-hmm. That's a kind of a strange name, isn't it? That isn't a French name, is it? Hood?
Hood? No. I'm an American citizen.
Oh, I see. What does your husband do, Mrs. Hood?
He teaches mathematics.
You mean like addition and subtraction?
No, he's college education.
Oh, long division, eh?
Well, he calls it integral calculus and analytics and, nasty things like that. Long words. Great big long words.
Well,
25 years, I haven't had time yet to know it.
You haven't absorbed any of this, Mrs. Hood?
I'm careful what I learn.
I'm not. I'm infected with trivia of all kinds. Mr. Monte, where were you born?
Born in Macomb, Illinois, in a log cabin.
In a log cabin, huh?
Yeah.
How old are you?
Well, on my next birthday, I'll be 90 years old.
Well, you must have been born quite some time ago.
Yes. 2 days ago.
You're almost 90 years old?
Yes, sir.
Well, Mr. Monte, we get familiar in a hurry around here. What shall I call you?
Everybody calls me Daddy.
I'll be very happy to call you Daddy. Happier than you realize. Imagine me calling anyone Daddy. I'll call you Dada. And you can call me number 1. Or Louis, if you prefer. Are you married, Dad?
Yes, sir.
You are, huh? How long you been married?
57 years.
Well, stick to it. It may work out all right. How large is your clan? Or how green is my valley, I suppose? How large is your family?
4 children, 7 grandchildren, 7 great-grandchildren.
How about great-great-grandchildren?
You have to give me time.
Now, after 57 years of marriage, have you any advice for younger married couples?
Well, I'd advise a man never to argue with a woman.
You don't believe in arguing with a woman, is that it?
No, sir.
Well, that's sound advice, Dad. If we all did that, we'd all live to be 90. Mrs. Hood, how long have you been married?
26 years.
Do you have any advice for younger married couples?
Yes. First of all, never buy anything that costs more than $10 without talking it over. But that doesn't mean to say that you shouldn't talk everything over, even if it does lead to an argument. It clears the air eventually.
Now, Dad, this isn't exactly in accord with your philosophy. What have you got to say about that?
Well, I guess she's right.
No wonder he got to be 90. Now, Mrs. Hood, I understand you have an interesting hobby. Could you tell us what it is?
Well, I'm an ecologist.
I'm sorry, but that isn't the secret word tonight. It's a nice try, though. What do you mean, an ecologist?
We study the interrelationship of plants, animals, soil, and water.
Oh.
That's a beginning.
Well, you said water. That's the secret word. So you and Pappy over here split $100 between you. 50 for you and 50 for you. In other words, you're a conservationist. Is that right?
That's a good explanation of it.
A conservationist is someone who likes to talk.
Well, all
to
women
make
do
conservation,
that.
isn't it? And I just made too much in the last 5 seconds. Now, Dad Fenneman says you're a very unusual man. I'd like to know why, besides the fact that you're a vigorous, healthy 90.
Because I fly.
You mean you just flap your arms and take off?
No, sir. I fly an airplane.
Wait a minute. At 90, you actually pilot a plane?
Yes, sir.
It's extraordinary. At 90, a man is unusual if he can pilot a rocking chair. How long have you been a pilot, Junior?
I've been a pilot now for quite a while. The young fellow.
Well, that was quite a while, all right. I'm curious, are there any licensed pilots around who are older than you?
I'm told I'm the oldest active licensed pilot in the world.
Oh, when did you first get the urge to pilot a flying machine?
When I was 8 years old.
Well, that's old enough. Why didn't you fly one?
Well, they wasn't invented at that time.
A flimsy excuse if I ever heard of it. Well, how did you get the urge to fly if there weren't any airplanes?
I had a vision that I'd fly like the heavy-bodied birds, soar through the skies from city to city and ocean to ocean. Nobody could ever talk me out of it.
Is there any special ambition you have as a pilot?
I want to fly a jet.
Well, you look just like the movie version of a jet pilot. Why would you like to do that?
Well, bring me up to date.
Dad, you're just a 90-year-old hot rod driver.
I've flown everything from Virginia to DC-6.
You have, eh? Now, do you think it'd be a good idea if everybody learned to fly a plane so we could all get around faster?
I think it would. Everybody learn to fly a plane to get around faster, but the point is to know what they're going to do when they get there.
Now, Dad, you're all right, and even if you weren't piloting in an airplane, the rest of us would still have to look up to you. I'm proud to meet a man with your vigor at the age of 90.
Thank you.
Well, it's been interesting talking to you two, and Dad, you've restored my confidence in flying. I won't get sick anymore when I lick an airplane stand. Now then, you're going to play You Bet Your Life for a chance at the DeSoto Plymouth $1,500 question. You run your $20 no more than our other couples. I can't tell you how much you have to win, but George is going to remind our listeners.
The newlyweds still lead with $282, and the secret word is water.
Here we go. Let's see how high I can bid you $20. You selected famous physical characteristics. Here's your first question. How much of the 20 will you try?
15.
15.
Is that right?
All right.
That's all right.
What was the name of the large-sized Philistine who was slain by David's slingshot?
David and Goliath.
Goliath is right.
Well, you're off to a good start. You have $35.
Remember, you're going for $1,500 tonight. How much of the $35 will you bet on your second question?
30.
$30. What was the name of the little wooden boy whose nose grew when he told a lie?
Pinocchio.
Pinocchio is right.
You now have $65.
Here's your third question. How much of the 65 will you bet?
60.
60? What long-nosed poet helped woo his friend's girl, Roxanne?
Oh, I know it. Suivez ma panache blanche. Cyrano de Bergerac.
Cyrano is right.
You've now climbed to $125.
Imagine a Frenchwoman always missing that, huh?
$120.
Is that what you're going to bet? Okay, here we go. The last chance to beat the other couples, $120. What was the name of the strong man who was weakened when his hair was cut?
Samson.
Samson and Delilah.
Well, you wind up with $245 And that means that the newlyweds with $282 in just 1 minute get a chance at the DeSoto Plymouth $1,500 question.
George, I got a nice letter from a Mr. Albert L. Mackenzie of Campbell, California, and I wonder if you'd mind reading it.
Oh, gladly. Let's see. Mr. Mackenzie writes, Dear Mr. Marks, I followed your advice, went into a DeSoto Plymouth dealer and told them Groucho sent me. Well, I purchased a used car. It was fairly priced, and I'm very happy with it. And I received a very satisfactory allowance on my old car. The dealer was courteous and very efficient, and had that rare gift of making me feel at home and welcome. The deal was somehow lifted out of the realm of a mere business transaction where you simply got what you paid for and placed on an entirely different plane. It was a novel and pleasing experience I thought you might be interested in hearing. Yours very truly, Albert L. Mackenzie. And friends, I'm sure you'd like that kind of treatment too. So if you're interested in a used car, visit a DeSoto Plymouth dealer.
And when you do, tell them Groucho sent you.
And here are the newlyweds, the winning couple, all set for the DeSoto Plymouth $1,500 question, Groucho.
Yeah, for $1,500. I'll give you 15 seconds to decide on a single answer between you. Think carefully, and please no help from the audience. Ready? One of the most famous opera houses in the world is located in Milan, Italy. For $1,500, what is the name of this great musical landmark? Talk it over. All right, what's the answer you two have decided upon? Take a guess.
Vespucci?
No, I'm sorry. It's La Scala. Correct answer is La Scala, so that means the big question next week will be worth $2,000. Well, you lost the big money, but how much did they win in the quiz, George?
$282.
Well, that's not too bad. Congratulations, and thanks to both of you and to all of our contestants on the show tonight.
Be sure to tune in again next Wednesday night at the same time for the Groucho Marx Show, when the big question will be worth $2,000. And don't miss Groucho's television show, also presented by the DeSoto Plymouth Dealers of America. And remember, all dealers who sell DeSoto also sell Plymouth. Two great cars, both products of the Chrysler Corporation.
And when you drive in, tell them Groucho sent you. Good night, folks, and remember, see the 1952 DeSoto.
Folks, here's a reminder from the National Safety Council. You can't control the weather, but you can control your speed. You Bet Your Life, transcribed from Hollywood, is produced by John Goodell, directed by Robert Dwan and Bernie Smith. Music by Jerry Fielding. This is George Fenneman signing off for the more than 3,000 DeSoto Plymouth dealers from coast to coast.
There you have it. You Bet Your Life. 73 years ago, January 23rd, 1952, here on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Reminder tomorrow, more comedy. Jack Benny, Joan Davis, Father Knows Best, George and Gracie, and Claudia. But right now, we're going to check with Superman next.
What's with the basket, Mom? Picnic?
Nope, this is Grandma's Pantry, modern version.
Great, Mom. Only what's it for?
Civil defense. And you're the one who brought the idea home from scout meeting. Here, help me check off the list. Fruit juice?
Yup.
Powdered milk?
Right.
Canned meats?
Into civil defense comes Grandma's Pantry, the symbol of preparedness. Unexpected company, Grandma always had plenty for everyone.
No matter what unexpected disaster, your family should have a 7-day supply of food on hand, kept well protected in jars or tins, and safe in a shelter area.
In an emergency or during evacuation in case of enemy attack, it's too late to plan. You will have to depend on your own resources, on Grandma's pantry.
Assure the future. Know the 6 steps to survival. Make this year your family's year for civil defense. You take the first step.
Civil defense, an American tradition.
Having extra food is always a good thing to have. Now an episode of Superman as we go back 83 years. This is from January 23rd, 1942.
Presenting the transcription feature, Superman.
Look, up in the sky.
It's a bird. It's a plane. It's Superman. Yes, it's Superman, strange visitor from the planet Krypton, who came to Earth with powers and abilities far beyond those of mortal men. Superman who can leap tall buildings at a single bound, race a speeding bullet to its target, bend steel in his bare hands, and who, disguised as Clark Kent, mild-mannered reporter for a great metropolitan newspaper, fights a never-ending battle for truth and justice. But before we join Superman, listen.
And now to our story. When the mysterious and deadly leopard woman, leader of an Oriental spy ring, was trapped in an underground room with Max Heller, a notorious foreign agent, she saved her own skin by shooting Heller and escaping in his folding-wing plane. But Kent, as Superman, found the dying man and rushed him to a hospital, hoping to keep him alive so that he could be questioned as to the leopard woman's whereabouts and the extent of her operations. Learning that Heller might survive, the leopard woman, in a daring move, visited the city hospital in the dead of night, hoping to complete the job her bullet had failed to accomplish. As our story continues today, the cunning female spy, heavily veiled, is forcing a terrified nurse to lead her to the emergency ward where Heller is hovering between life and death. Listen.
Do not be deceived by the size of this revolver. It is no toy. Take me to the room where Max Heller is. I don't know the room. Don't lie. You told me a moment ago the emergency ward. Go ahead. And remember one word after you, one false move, and you will join Herr Heller on the danger list.
Almost paralyzed with fright, the nurse leads the way down the deserted, dimly lit hospital corridor, the leopard woman following close behind, gun in hand. At the end of the corridor, the nurse stops.
What are you stopping for? I tell you, I don't know the room. Maybe the feel of this revolver in your back will refresh your memory.
No.
Quiet. Enough of this nonsense. Take me to the emergency ward and be quick about it. I have very little patience.
Pale and quivering, the nurse turns toward the door of the emergency ward at her left. But suddenly, a fear-choked scream rips from her throat. She drops to the floor in a dead faint.
You little fool.
Almost instantly, doors swing open along the hospital corridor as nurses and attendants search for the source of the scream. Trapped, the leopard woman darts into the nearest room, finds it empty. Closing the door behind her, she moves swiftly to the window, opens it. With amazing agility, she climbs out, drops 10 feet to the courtyard below, and melts into the darkness as the hospital corridor becomes alive with the excited babble of a dozen voices. An hour later, Clark Kent and Major Campbell, chief of the Secret Service, are questioning the still terrified nurse in the office of the hospital superintendent.
Try and remember exactly what happened, Miss Evans. May be of great help to us. You better take notes, Kent.
Oh, yes, I will, Major.
What time was it when the woman first approached your desk, Miss Evans?
About 2:30.
Were you the only nurse on duty?
No, Miss McCary and Miss Burns were on with me, but both of them were answering ward calls. The private nurses and attendants were in their rooms. It's usually that way between 2 and 5 in the morning.
I see. Now, as I understand it, this woman forced you down the corridor at the point of a gun, threatening your life unless you led her to the emergency ward.
That's right.
And then you fainted.
Yes, sir. I still don't know what happened to that woman.
She escaped through the window of an empty room across the corridor from the emergency ward.
Who was she? What did she want?
We're not quite certain, Miss Evans, but thank you for your information.
I may go now?
Certainly, and thank you very much.
You're quite welcome.
Well, there you have it, Kent. Probably the most daring attempt at murder ever conceived.
Yeah.
And if that girl hadn't screamed, it would have gone through.
No question about it in my mind, Major. It was a leopard woman.
Well, One thing is certain. She won't come back here. All we can do is sit tight until Heller is able to talk. What did Dr. Kingsley say?
Unless he has a relapse, he'll recover. Maybe a week before we can question him, though.
That's bad. So much can happen in a week. I wouldn't be at all surprised if she and her society had something to do with those submarine attacks off our shore. After all, those subs must have had a radio contact on shore.
That sounds likely. Can't that be checked?
You can. It's very difficult. They change wavelengths frequently, even change the source of the signal. Like tracking down a weasel in a briar patch. But I'll put our shortwave listening posts on guard. Well, no sense hanging around here any longer. Let's get some sleep.
I think I'll spend the rest of the night at the hospital, Major.
Well, don't you feel well?
Oh, sure, I feel fine. It's just that, well, I think it's safer.
Don't tell me you're getting jittery, Kent. Heller's in a private room with a 6'5" cop at the door, and 2 of our men are guarding the hospital entrance. Nobody could get through.
No, I know that, but I've got a little idea I'd like to try out just to be on the safe side. It isn't very important.
Well, suit yourself. I'm going home. I'll leave instructions that you're in charge.
Okay.
I'll probably let you sleep in an empty room. I'm sure nothing's going to happen, but you know where to reach me if you want me.
Yes, I have your number.
Okay. Good night, Kent.
Good night, Major.
Leaving Kent at the hospital, the Secret Service chief returns to his home for a few hours of well-earned rest. Meanwhile, in the brownstone house at the other end of the city, headquarters of the Society of the Leopard, the door of a room opens silently, and a Japanese accomplice enters with early editions of the morning papers. Seated at a table, clothed in her black silk ceremonial robe, the leopard woman scans the front pages hurriedly.
Yes, here it is, Cato. Just as I suspected. Listen. Early this morning, a daring attempt was made to snuff out the life of Hans Heller, notorious foreign agent, now held at the city hospital with a bullet wound in the chest. Heller is being given the best of medical care in the hope that he will recover and reveal all he knows about espionage activities in this country. You hear that, Cato?
Yes, I hear.
It is a hope that will never be realized. That man Heller cannot live, Cato. I shall have to try again.
How will it be possible? Certainly they're taking precautions now, even if they did not before.
There must be a way. Nothing is impossible.
Perhaps you wish Cato to make supreme sacrifice?
What do you mean?
If Cato walk into hospital carrying bomb, there would be violent explosion. That's all?
You speak with the true fearlessness of the leopard, Cato. But it would not work. The entrance must be guarded. You, a Japanese, could never gain admission. No. It must be done with cunning. Wait. I think I have a plan. Yes, a perfect plan. I will become a patient at the city hospital.
Cato do not understand.
It's very simple. I'm going to be sick, Cato, violently sick. Summon one of our English-speaking friends who has pledged allegiance to the leopard. He will arrange for a private room and a private nurse at the city hospital. I will be called Miss Brown. Miss Helen Brown. It is a common American name.
He will not suspect the doctor?
Not until it's too late. You forget I am an actress by profession. I can simulate pain very easily. Now quickly, call the council together. I must give them final instructions in the event something unforeseen happens. Strike the gong.
Hours later, just as dawn is breaking, a call buzzer summons a nurse into a private room at the city hospital.
Yes, Miss Brown? I would like some water, please. Oh, certainly. Here you are. Now drink it slowly. Thank you. How do you feel? A little better.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that. Now, why don't you try to sleep?
I'm not sleepy. There was something I wanted to ask you.
Mm-hmm.
My brother, the gentleman who brought me here, said there had been some trouble at the hospital during the night. What was it?
Oh, nothing very much. We have a foreign spy here. He was wounded when he was captured.
Oh, I hope he's not anywhere near me.
Oh, no. He's in a private room at the end of the corridor. And there's a policeman at the door. Don't worry.
May I have my handbag, please? It's an address.
Mm-hmm. There you are. Miss Brown, what are you doing?
Getting out of bed. You're getting in.
Oh.
Keep that pretty mouth of yours shut if you know what's good for you. Take off that uniform. Take it off, I said. I don't carry this revolver around to powder my nose with. It works. Now get that uniform off and get it off fast. Or this is the last nursing job you will ever do.
Forcing the nurse to remove her uniform, let the woman dons it, tears the bedsheet into strips, and binds and gags the helpless girl on the bed. Then, darkening the room, she steps out into the corridor. At the end of the corridor, a burly policeman is seated at a door. The leopard woman, a crisp white uniform and cap of perfect disguise, approaches him.
Good morning.
Morning, miss.
Oh, don't get up. I'm just going to have a look at our valuable patient. He hasn't given you any trouble, has he?
Not him. He's out cold.
Yes. Fortunate.
Unsuspected, the leopard woman slips into Max Heller's room, silently approaches the bed. Only a thin shaft of gray light filters in through the drawn shades. Reaching out, her supple fingers with their cruel pointed nails fasten on Heller's throat. This is the moment for which she has been waiting. Don't miss the next startling episode if you want thrills galore. What can possibly stop the leopard woman now? Tune in and listen with Superman.
Don't forget, tune in again for the next thrilling episode with Superman.
Look, up in the sky.
A bird. It's a plane. It's Superman.
January 23rd, 1942, Superman, here on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Visit our webpage at classicradio.stream. We'll be back tomorrow with more comedy right here on Classic Radio Theater. I'm Wyatt Cox.